Mm, mm, mm. Oh, yeah. I'm with this, with it. I'm just gonna lay back and I'ma drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. We about to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready, let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the beat, legacy online. 7 and 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus Stage start to talk, running back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus Stage start to talk. Steppin is the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 and 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus Stage start to talk.
All right, y'all. Ain't no half stepping. Marcus J is live. We in the building. I'm grinning because we wasn't here last week, and I'm excited to be back. As I am sure the usual suspects are. I usually tease it here. I don't want to tease it. I want y'all to just sit there and wait till we come out of this intro because it's going to be fun, as it is every single week. And it's time for the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. We call this little thing here that we do Ain't No Half Step. Marcus J. That's me, y'all. And we live right now.
Yeah.
It's about that time. It's about that time to get. Yeah.
Button your lip. Open your ears. Strap on your thinking cap. Socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. It's time for Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He hits one deep to right center. That ball is out of here. The Yankees win the pennant.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J is live. We are in the building. Be down with us tonight at 804-402-2893. Be down with the flagship show. Her live from New Den of Legacy Internet Radio. Thank you to everybody that's rocking with us tonight. We appreciate those folks that are already checking us out in social media, those folks on Facebook Live, those folks that are checking us out on YouTube Live. Shout out to the folks that are checking out our archive. You might be watching us here in the very near future or in the future. However it is that you are participating with us tonight, we appreciate y'all. We got some salutations that we got to get to already. The first one being one of my favorite people in the whole world who has been a listener. She's been a performer. She is a singer. She's a writer. She's a entrepreneur. She's all the wonderful things. She is my sister and yours, Jody Smith. What's up, sister? I'm so glad to see you rocking with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then also checking us out. She's gonna get salutations before you usual suspects get introduced. So the listeners are gonna hear y'all. You already know where it's going. Big sister's checking in already, and so she wants to get a sip with us. She's obviously watching us. So we're going to look at the camera together and we're going to say to her, Good morning, Sue. Yeah, have Steppin with Marcus J. So since you are at the mic, John, you always get lined up first. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Of course, we'll introduce our sister here in just a moment. But I look across the table and I see you with the locking NY. I enjoy seeing that because I got a locking NY. You are John, my friend. How are you, sir?
I'm well, and how are you, sir?
I am well. I feel good today. It's been 2 weeks since we've done this, and now I feel good. I'm in a great mood, and whenever I get to rock with y'all, it's a good day for me.
Yeah, just coming off the celebration of the goddess of fertility, Esther, and enjoying my full paganism. Hoping everybody else had a good time. Hope you found a bunch of the bunny rabbit eggs.
You gotta love
signifying the new birth of spring, and the praise of Esther, the goddess of fertility.
Yeah, hashtag Marcus J. Also, right now we got a couple more salutations we need to get in. Legacy Internet Radio alum, a couple of alums are checking us out. The first is the career cheerleader, Cara Presley, is checking us out, and so we appreciate her and we love her. Thank you. She is successful, of course. And then one of our longtime contributors to this show was a participant on the show regularly in our earlier years, and I'm so happy to look up and see her. You had a milestone recently, and I'm glad to see you here checking us out. And happy birthday, blessed Earth Strong to you recently. Our sister Toyana is checking us out today, and I'm so happy to see you. It's been so long since I put my arms around you, sister. So it's good to have you rocking with us. And how Steppin Marcus J is always happy and proud when I look across or look to my right and see the co-host of the show. She is my right hand, and I appreciate being in this space with my sister Steppy. What's up, Steph?
Always forward. How you brothers doing?
Like I say every week, I just like it when you say that. Yeah, man. How you doing, man?
You sometimes you have to remind yourself that what is ahead of you is way more important than what's behind you. Tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life.
Yep.
Every single day, every morning.
Yep.
It's first day of the rest of your life. So
yeah,
why not always forward?
You get a chance to do it every day.
Yes. And I mean, look, you want to be mad, you get a new opportunity to be mad tomorrow.
Yeah.
Get you all excited about it.
Yeah. Well, while we're here, let's do the weekend thing. You'll go back to John for a minute, and we'll come back to you, Steph. How was your weekend, John? I introduced you and then moved on. So how's your weekend, man? You mentioned what the weekend was, but that didn't speak to how your weekend was.
Well, it was all right. I watched some professional football. I enjoyed that. There was some boxing that happened. A little bit of basketball. There was some golf this weekend. There was golf last weekend too. The Masters. Tiger made the cut, which was wonderful. He didn't finish well, but he made the cut.
I mean, come on. You weren't supposed to have half a leg, dude.
Right. So
come on now.
What else this weekend? That's about it. I really didn't do anything. I kind of just vegged out a little bit, tried to catch up on emails.
Yeah.
To all of my people, all of the people who know me on a business platform, and some people, most people don't email me personal. To all my people on business platform, I'm very I'd like to apologize to you. I will get back to all of you. Just give me a moment.
Yeah.
That's about
Being
it.
a happy black man.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, man. Listen, I don't understand unhappy people. See, I went through. I found out something in psychology. People who experienced a lot of trauma in their young lives have a lack of empathy. So I'm working on that. I'm trying to be empathetic, but I don't get unhappy people. Like
that doesn't happen to traumatized Virgos. We don't know how to be. We need to turn it down some.
Yeah, I can't. I just don't get it. Like, why are you not? I mean, what happened yesterday is over. It's over. Like you said, today is a new day. Wake up.
When they go through major things, they can tend to be dismissive about because nothing seems big after you've been through something.
But
major.
Nothing is big the next day. It was big yesterday. Right? It was big yesterday. And you got through it. Right? And time is the undefeated champion of all things.
Okay. Now.
Tomorrow will be even better. And then it gets greater later. So why are you wasting your time, your precious little bit of time here on the physical earth, being mad and sad?
I mean, it's a good point.
Work it out.
Yeah, I can dig it. I mean, it's a very evolved way of thinking. It's a way that I'm trying to train myself to think. I can certainly understand and empathize with folks who haven't gotten there yet. But I want to agree with you because the reality is when there's something that you need to deal with, then deal with it with a positive outlook, because if today was bad, you got to consider tomorrow being better so that you can deal with whatever it was that was bad today and face what's going to be great tomorrow.
Give yourself a reason to be looking forward. Absolutely.
The thing about it is you got to understand, like, everything is perspective and perception. How do you choose to see a thing? How do you choose to look at it? That's your choice. That's the real power of choice. People talk about good and evil. It's not about good and evil. It's about perspective. How do you choose to view a situation? What do you want to see? Even things that seem catastrophic and destructive, where you cannot see anything positive, there's a lesson to be learned. Learn something.
I can dig it.
Think things that are sad or whatever. There's always one thing that this universe is guaranteeing you, and that is balance. It's going to be balanced. The scales will weigh even. You just got to be able to move yourself from the seat that you in into another seat. When I sit here every Monday and I look at this room, I see one room. Steph, you see a different room, and Marcus sees a completely different room. Sometimes we got to change seats to really see things and just find the lesson, find the positivity, because one or the other is in every single thing, no matter how bad it seems.
And you know how Steph Marcus J live from New Den, like I said, that radio. I dig that, Steph. I dig where he was going. So how about you? How was your weekend? See anybody wonderful over your weekend? Any great people that you run into?
I encountered greatness.
Did you run into anybody?
Yeah, I mean, and it was a moment where I was like, am I ever going to be in the presence of this level of greatness again? Maybe not. Let me take my chance here. See, that's how people are supposed to compliment you.
Yeah.
You want people in your life that are like,
absolutely,
you're the dopest.
Yeah. This is why this is why I serve it up. Because
I just wish y'all would start calling me. Y'all don't be calling me.
But we don't have to, because we have chance encounters like all the damn time.
Well, Chip be like, yo, guess where we both at right now? I'll be there in 5.
Now, this is the thing about Marcus. He will come in and acknowledge that I'm like, okay, so we were at a local watering hole and really,
we can shout these two out.
Yeah.
I was leaving Croker Spot, as I always am, and I'm walking past Brewers.
And I was chilling there, which I tend to do on a Friday.
And I happened to look to my right. I said, well, I'll be damned.
Yes. And I was in, and shout out to Crystal. She's not over pouring, but she's pouring, And so, yeah, y'all, I'll tell you what, it's nice to see a certain part of RVA blossoming the way that it is. and to see what this brother has put together as, a coffee shop with a bar. And so when you get on, you can go there in the morning, you can go and a stage, and yes, and free Wi-Fi. But you could go there in the morning, get a great breakfast sandwich, get a little bit to drink a little coffee. The turmeric milk latte is amazing. I know, sounds bougie, it's bougie. Oh well. And then
spoken by bougie.
Yes, that's right. And then you're like, Fridays are my day off. It's a day I schedule my free time. I might do like a few consultations or whatever, but I love to go there after I've done my radio show on Friday because it's just a chill spot. So I'm in there. I'm feeling lovely. It's walking distance to home, which I love on a nice night. And who comes strolling by? And I will tell you, he strolls in confidently, like y'all are about to sit down and have a drink.
If y'all don't know
Marcus,
strolls
right back out.
If y'all don't
he was
know,
on his way home.
If y'all don't know Marcus, it is an experience
when
to
he
witness him
up to you.
Walk anywhere.
Like George Jefferson.
It's an experience. This brother walks through the world with a level of confident elegance that is unmatched.
Really is. And that is exactly how he walked in. I was there and I was talking to somebody else. Marcus is lasered in on what Marcus came to do. So I never have to worry that if I'm just, chatting to 10, 15 people that he won't walk. He would never be the person that's like, I saw you, but I didn't say anything. I can't stand when people do that. Marcus is like, I see you, I saw you, I'm coming through.
Yo, what up?
That's right. And then at that point, he's like, you, and I was like, no, I'm walking tonight. I'm walking. You want me to take you? I'm like, no, I'm walking. But it immediately, this is gonna sound dramatic. And I am. But
you home.
What was weird when I thought about later when I was kind of thinking it through, because my whole day is kind of solitary on Fridays until I go, to Brewers or Croker Spot. I was thinking, I was like, what is that? It's like that moment when Miss Sophia is in the store and she sees Miss Seeley and she's so happy to see somebody she knows. I know people, but I don't, when you're not a native, I don't know people. It feels good when I see Marcus. I'm like, I know people. My homie strolling through. Who is this? Who we got? Who we got?
I'm trying to get the phone to work. Call if you hear me, call back. I'm trying to get the phones
we'll hook you up.
Yeah, we saw you calling and we were in a thought, and when I tried to get to the phone, it just hung up on us.
Please call back.
But go ahead and finish your point, Steph.
But yeah, it's cool. And it is cool. That whole strip through the city all the way down to the other side of where I live is turning into restaurants.
Blossoming.
It's blossoming. It's
and my street here,
regenerification and vine.
Two Street is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
2 Street is vibrantly blossoming.
Yes.
Vibrantly blossoming.
Now, the downside is anybody could talk about gentrification and all that in that area, and that would be fair.
All right, so we got the caller back. Caller, thank you for listening. Thank you for rocking with us. What's your name? What's your comment? Caller, turn your radio down. Caller, turn your radio down. You're on the live line. Caller, turn your radio off. Going once.
Hey, Square.
Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
What?
Now can you hear me?
All right, caller, there you go. I got you. Listen to me on the phone, not on the radio. What's your name? What's your comment, caller?
I got 2 phones going. Hey, Marcus.
Hey.
What is this?
How are you?
Outstanding. Who are we talking to today? Who are we talking to today?
Who are you talking to, you said?
Yes.
I can't believe you can't, recognize my voice, Square.
Girl, we're not going to do this on the air. Who are we talking to?
Marcus Day, this is Toyana.
Hey, and I just shouted you out earlier. Yeah. See, you was about to put me on the spot. And I wasn't going to play that game with you, girl. What's happening, man?
Hey, I wanted to just say great job as always. I do check you out when I can.
Yeah.
I just wanted to chime in quickly.
Sure.
So I won't take anyone's thunder. But just talking about how you walk into people's lives, you already know how you walked up on me that day.
I do.
When you wanted me to be on the show.
Yes.
You remember?
I do. I'll tell that real quick story. Back in the days before this, before we had the show, Toyana, our sister, I used to do in-house relationship seminars with the Dating Pool Diva.
Oh.
And when we were in, I can't remember the name of the place, somewhere down in Shackle Bottom, but this sister Toyana, who's on us, my sister, she was talking, and I looked at her. I was like, yeah, I need to have her on the show. So I George Jefferson walked up to her. What's your number, sis? You're gonna be on the show. You remember that?
Yes. I was voluntold more than anything.
Voluntold.
Yes,
I
you
love
were.
being voluntold.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. And it ended up being a wonderful interaction and connection. You were my sister then, later became my sister, and I just enjoyed all of the time that we spent, many hours doing radio and fellowshipping, and it's just been a wonderful thing. It's been quite a while since I've had an opportunity to put my arms around you, but I appreciate you a lot. And so I thank you for, you mentioned that you've been with us listening from time to time, and thank you for continuing to be a part of your family.
Thank you. Yes, I am at home. I'm back in Charlotte and doing great things. So please know there's an open invitation for you all to come, and I can show you what Charlotte is doing as well.
Charlotte is it.
Actually got to visit.
Yeah. Well, we love the Queen City, but we love you more. So thank you.
Absolutely. So keep up the great work. And again, when you walk into a room, is nothing but thunder. So everybody need to get prepared.
I appreciate your kindness.
When you make your presence known.
I have my ways.
Oh Lord.
You have your,
your
ways.
Thank you. We love you, man.
All right.
Take it easy.
We love you too.
Peace.
Thank
hey,
you so
look,
much
look,
for
look.
letting me share with you.
Do one more
I'm
thing for
y'all
me.
Get back.
Can you do one thing for me?
Just to give you a shout out.
Can you do one more thing for me? Can you do one thing for me?
Uh-huh.
Tell your mom and dad I said peace. I had an opportunity to meet them, and they are wonderful people. That's why you dope, because they dope. So thank you.
I will. I'll send love and peace to them from you.
You got it.
All right, everyone.
Peace to you.
I have to go with the auntie duty.
Be good.
I gotta do auntie duty. So I will talk to y'all and see y'all again soon. Love and peace.
Peace and love. Thank you. And you know how Steppin with Marcus J live from New Dan Legacy and that radio. That blast from the past was absolutely something that warmed me up, and I appreciate our sister Toyana for rocking with us. Couple of quick salutations I need to get back to. The legal, our sister Tamika Robinson is checking us out, and she got her comment and she's saying peace to us. Let's see. Sue says, right on, John. I have learned to change how I see things. Kara says, yes, find the positive. Sue is saying I didn't call her either, but she says I will roll up. Little sister's checking in. She's saying good morning. We got to give her the exact same love that we give her big sis. So we're gonna look into the camera to her as well and say good morning, Lathrell. Yeah, you know how Steppin with Marcus J live from New Dan Legacy and that radio. You know, it's funny. I remember the first time that John actually acknowledged my unorthodox stride. We were leaving a place that we had attempted to go, and it had upset us because while we were there, we didn't get the service that we wanted.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and so we paid for what we had done, and we were on our way to another place, and I walked out in front of John and Bobby. And when we got outside, I turned around and they were quite a few strides behind me, and they're laughing hysterically, both of them. What the hell y'all laughing at? It's like, what y'all laughing at? Hey man, what can I say?
No, that afternoon, that evening, he was on a different stride, and part of it was where we were and what we had experienced. The fact that we were not, the service wasn't bad.
We just didn't have any.
The atmosphere,
I remember,
made it not conducive for an enjoyable evening for us.
Right.
Then where we were was leaning to the hood side of Richmond, right? So in that,
which none of us have a problem with.
I was just gonna say,
but combine those two things,
it's not a networking place,
right? And combine those two things, it adds that extra stride to it, where it took on a cinematic effect. And if you know the iconic scene of George and Wheezy going into the apartment building,
oh yes,
he hit it.
He was hitting
it full through.
Oh my God! And you know what's funny? You know what's really, 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 really funny about that? It's so like natural. I don't like try to do it,
and that's what makes it. But that's what makes it acceptable and unique, because it's not forced. It's not an attempt. No. He's not trying. That's just who he is.
I think it's hilarious. And the irony is, you know, as I've gotten older, like I look at certain like fictional characters, and I see certain similarities, starting with Raj from What's Happening up to Martin. I'm feeling like I'm in my George Jefferson phase now, because I'm the same age as that character was as we were watching it. And I know for a fact that one day I will evolve into Fred Sanford. I know I will. I know I will.
I feel
I'm
like
curmudgeon.
Listen, I feel like a combination of Fred Sanford, Archie Bunker, and what's my man from Rona? He played the editor.
From Rhoda?
Rhoda, yeah.
What are you talking about?
Ed Asner character, yeah.
Y'all not gonna drag me into sounding old.
Hold on.
Y'all do this by yourselves.
No, wait a minute. Not the actor himself, but that character.
The character, yeah. Lou Grant. Lou Grant.
Lou Grant, yeah, because he had his own thing.
Yeah, Lou Grant.
So I feel like a combination of
all of them.
Fred Sanford, Archie Bunker, and Lou Grant.
Ain't no how Steppin Marcus say
I just want to be Sandra. Mary.
Hey Mary.
Hi Rose. Hi Pearl. Hey Mary.
You could probably pull that off.
I just want to be her.
Yeah, you could probably pull that off.
And shady full life.
At the same time. Yeah. I think we all forget how some of them shows absolutely shaped our youth, and how, you know, I don't know. I ain't throwing shade at what's on TV now, but it just ain't like it used to be. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus Shay live from New Den. Legacy and that radio. Y'all ready to get to the show?
Let's get it.
Y'all ready to get to the show?
Let's go.
All right. Hip hop suffered a loss, y'all. Yeah, we lost DJ K Slay over the weekend, yesterday, on Easter. He had passed away after a long battle with COVID-19. Right? And you know, I think when we look at hip hop and we look at our generation of hip hop, you know, a lot of our pioneers, you know, were early day pioneers. Like this new generation, and there's absolutely no shade intended here, but when you start losing like people who changed the game, you know,
or crafted
it or completely made it different. You know what I'm saying? Like whenever you have someone who changes rules, to kind of use a sports analogy, like you had to change the NBA because of this player,
or you moved the three-point
line because of that player, or
change the golf course.
You had to change the golf course, you know, because of that player. You know, he was one of those people. And, you know, I just think that it's a very, very hard thing when, you know, you start looking at the people who were the pioneers in a culture or any kind of realm that is a part of who you are, whether it be your favorite TV show or your favorite athlete or your favorite what have you. You start losing these people, you know, it becomes a lot more personal. When you look at somebody like K-Slay, you know, not only was he a pioneer in hip hop, but he was a peer. Like he's like our age. So
I mean, he's 55.
55 years old. You know, it's so difficult.
He was out there before we were.
Yeah, you know, he was a graffiti artist. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J live from New Den. Legacy Internet Radio. We got another call on the line. Caller, what your name is?
Big Frank. Calling again.
What's up, Frank? How you doing, brother?
Frankie the Don, what's happening, brother?
Not too bad. Not too bad. God bless K. Slay. He was a true legend in Harlem, true legend in the rap industry. And there's a bigger topic that we as Black people need to address is this COVID-19. You know, while he was battling, I'm battling right now.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, COVID-19 right
Ooh.
now.
Okay.
So yeah, I was just found out positive on that Saturday morning.
Oh.
You know, so I'm in somewhere in Newark, away from my family and at a hotel.
Okay.
Nevertheless, you know that COVID-19. I never thought I would get it. I got the boot. I got everything. I got the two vaccines, the booster, the whole nine, and I got it. So you know, people gotta realize how serious COVID-19 is, and I hope we can all understand that. You know, we gotta, even though they're telling us not that to slow down on wearing the mask and slow down on doing the things that can help you prevent you getting this
virus.
serious disease. You gotta take it seriously. Got to. Cause I wasn't with my kids yesterday.
Yeah.
And K. Slade died from this.
Right.
Spent months trying to fight it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, if you can have a topic and bring the right people on your show to explain this deadly situation, then that'll be good. But that's all I wanted to say. And God bless K. Slade. Yo, John, what up, man? I'm gonna be here every Monday.
Don Dada, thank you. Appreciate that.
Hey, man, best wishes for a speedy recovery.
All right,
and
man.
we hope everything
Peace
works
and
out
love
well.
always, man.
Thank
Listen,
you.
And
call
pray for
your
me,
call.
man. I'm
Listen,
here by myself.
Pray
for me, man.
Call your family so they can tell you how to brew the right concoction to get yourself healthy. You know, them people know what they're doing.
I'm here by myself. I'm doing the right precautions. So
yeah, get some roots, man.
I'm gonna hold it down until I can't. You know, God willing.
Yes, sir.
Best wishes, speedy recovery.
Right,
peace to you. Ain't no how Steppin with Marcus J. Live from New Dan Legacy and that radio. Steph, any reflections on DJ K. Slay?
I mean, you know, a lot of times people I like the transition of his career. I respect when people carve out a lane for themselves and it's not, I just need to be the biggest, baddest, dopest rapper. You know, as a DJ, he had early fame. He's involved with just about any hit maker you can imagine. Carried a radio career for 20 plus years. You know, and stayed relevant. I think that's the bigger thing. Because earlier you were talking about people who architect the game or craft it and everything else. When you really think about it, hip hop is a fairly new art form. As it relates to the music industry. It's got a shorter history than most, although its fundamentals come from lots of different spaces. And so because it is newer, we've seen more transition. We're seeing a lot more transitions. Why people hip hop's not what it used to be. It changes so frequently because it is so new. There's still so much to do. So when someone keeps a career this long, and they stay in the game, regardless of whether you like what it looks like or not, they stay relevant. New artists want to work with them. This is a 55-year-old dude. People were still hoping to get his attention, still hoping to get a cosign from K. Slay. His mixtapes kept the 90s jumping. And, you know, it's sad to know that, you know, 55 years of a life ends this way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's a sad thing. John, what's your thoughts on the DJ, bro?
Again, it's a loss. It's a loss for the community. We were talking earlier about people we lost in hip hop. Just, you know, as the show was going on, as pre-show, you know, he's having a conversation, and unnecessary and senseless is the only words I can think about it. there was no reason for him to die from COVID. That's not supposed to happen. It really isn't. He had too much access to too many resources for him to have died from COVID. It's just not supposed to happen. We need to, but as far as he's concerned, that's a whole. I'd be going way, way off. K-Slay's impact was incredible during the early 2000s. He was influential. I had started something with a friend of mine, the mix DVD. Shout out to my man Tone. We had a I forgot what we called it, but I can't remember. We had a DVD that was, like a mixtape, but we did a correspondence, kind of like a hip hop version of what's the Gumballs thing? What's his on HBO?
Oh yeah, the Real Sports.
Real Sports, right? So we had a similar thing on DVD about hip hop. We went out and interviewed stuff, and it was all I was influenced based coming from the mixtape thing and making the mixtape thing a thing. We can't forget that segment of now with streaming, but we can't just throw away that segment of what went on during the 90s and then into the 2000s, how influential it became and how it led to streaming in a way that artists who were formerly unknown and who would not be heard of because they couldn't get a record deal now had an outlet to do things. And then even artists who were established had an outlet to do things and make money without the label. Right. So his impact in that is unmatched, and he's going to be missed from the culture and from the community.
I just, I'll put a bow on this. It's a sad thing whenever you lose someone, and I kind of mentioned this, alluded to this earlier when I started. It's just, hip hop for me is a little bit different, just because, there's this feeling of youth that comes with it, mostly because I fell in love with it when I was younger. And so whenever there's a person that is a part of that culture, I guess the only other thing that I could think of for me personally that's similar is pro wrestling, because it feels youthful just by virtue of being a part of it, watching it, being in the culture of pro wrestling or in the culture of hip hop. Both of those things I, fell in love with, before I was 10 years old, literally. And so when someone in either of those cultures passes away, it's just extra hard for me, because it's that feeling of youth, even if they are an older person. 55 is not an older person. The older I get, the younger 55 becomes. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just, I feel so bad for him, because in his family, because, you can't fight against a deadly disease, and be mad and say, I wish it away, but I kind of wish it away. It's just this COVID thing, not to go down that path, because I really don't have the COVID energy to do that. But, it just affects everybody from, the 5-year-old that can't go to kindergarten to the 18-year-old that didn't get to go to the prom, to the 80-year-old that can't, travel like they used to, like,
or see their family.
And then there's us in the middle of all of that. And it's just, and in the midst of all of that, you got people that are literally dying. And so I just wish his family peace as we move on and transition to our next topic. I just wish his family would have peace and they work through the grieving process with grace and they rally around each other and support one another, and know that his fans around the world share in their grief, and we share in the reverence that this man had commanded from those of us who were fans of him. Ain't No How Steppin' with Marcus J, live from New Den, Legacy Internet Radio. All right, so we're gonna move on to our next topic, and this next topic is a topic that we've dealt with before. Unfortunately, it seems that we end up dealing with this topic often. I've been doing this going on 11 years, and it just seems that going back in my lifetime, not just the 11 years in the public eye doing radio and podcasts and television and all this stuff that we and I have been doing, this thing has always been a thing, and that's police involved shootings, more specifically of Black men. I'll tell a quick story. Yesterday on Easter, I didn't get into my weekend, and I won't get into it just because that time has passed. But as I was leaving the river, I was on my way home, and I saw a police officer pull out behind me. And I finished on Forest Hill Avenue in Richmond, and I get on Chippenham Parkway heading south, heading towards home. And the police officer pulled out from where he was, and he got behind me, and he rode with me from where I was on Forest Hill Avenue, past Midlothian Turnpike, past Hull Street, and he got off on Belmont. My next stop was Iron Bridge Road. Now, those folks in Richmond, y'all know what I'm talking about. Those folks outside of Richmond, just indulge me. But the whole time, you know, and the older I get, and especially since I love to smoke, I'm always one that's observing the speed limit. I don't speed anymore. I mean, you know, my full-time job, I drive a rolling billboard. I won't get into who that is, but if you work for a company and you got their name on the side of it, you know that you probably should not be wilding out on the road. So between me and, you know, indulging, you know, what's legal and I have a license for, and me having this rolling billboard in my usual vocation, I have just mellowed out. And then being damn near 50, I've just mellowed out how I drive. Sometimes I hit the cruise control, but I really don't need to. I don't drive fast anymore. So I wasn't as worried as I may have used to be. But I mean, like, here I got this anxiety on me on Easter Sunday in 3 or 4 o'clock or whatever it is in the afternoon, because a cop is behind me. And he might have been going about his business, but you're not going to convince me that he wasn't running my tags.
Oh, he was.
Because he was in the kind of distance behind me that it felt like he was following me. Now, maybe that's the Black man paranoia. I don't think it is. Maybe it is. So what? Because that has become the culture of which that we have been forced to live under. So I'm going to not say anymore. I'm going to play this 2.5 minute clip that's going to introduce the next story that we're going to get to. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the police involved shooting that happened recently in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is very upsetting because this keeps happening. Take a listen. Let's get it.
Now to the investigation into a deadly police shooting in Michigan. Overnight protests growing after video was released showing an officer killing a man he had pulled over for a traffic violation. Alex Perez has the latest.
Overnight, demonstrators in Grand Rapids, Michigan, demanding the officer who shot Patrick Lyoya be held accountable. After community pressure, authorities Wednesday... No. Stop. Put your hands right. Releasing video from the officer's body camera, dash camera, a bystander's cell phone, and a nearby security camera, all capturing the fatal encounter April 4th.
Stay in the car!
The unidentified officer pulling 26-year-old Lyoya over because the plate on the car wasn't registered to the vehicle. Lyoya gets out, eventually tries to run. He's also seen fighting with the officer and wrestling to get the officer's taser after the officer deployed it.
Stop!
Okay. After demanding Lyoya release the taser, the struggle ends with the officer on top of him, drawing his firearm and shooting Lyoya in the head. In the grapple, the body camera at one point stops recording.
The test is going to be whether, at the view of a reasonable police officer, whether that deadly force was needed to prevent death or great bodily harm.
Attorney Ben Crum says Lyoya's family is devastated and in disbelief.
He's on his hands and knees facing away from the officer. There are so many other things the officer could have done instead of pulling his gun out and shooting him in the back of the head.
And authorities say they haven't publicly identified the officer, who's a 7-year veteran of the force, because he hasn't been charged. So once the investigation is complete, it'll be turned over to prosecutors who'll determine if he'll face charges. Michael?
A lot of eyes on that. Thank you so much.
Ain't no have Steppin, Marcus J, live from New Den, Legacy Internet Radio. So we got a lot to unpack here. John's going to lead us off. What's your opening salvo? Steph will give hers. I will give mine. We'll round table this. What you got?
The first thing I like to say is it's at this point, and I know so many people don't agree with me. Probably even the people in this room right here, because I love y'all. Y'all don't agree with me. It can no longer be believed that these are outliers, that this is mistakes, that this is not something deliberate. That time has passed, right? I see too many things on social media with police not following the policy and the protocol that they are supposed to follow. They don't do the job as it was instructed to them on paper. What they're doing is the job as it is instructed to them verbally in the department, and it is national, right? They are told that Black people are a threat, that Black men are a serious threat, and that they should do anything and everything possible to put down that threat. They're told that these Black men are trying to hurt them and their families. And this is how they approach every encounter. And with that mindset in every encounter, they just go well beyond what they're supposed to do. On top of that, it's even showing up in their interactions with white people, where they are going way beyond what they're supposed to do in the job. Somebody told these people that they are judge, jury, and executioner. Somebody told these people that they are the law, right? Somebody told these people that they are supposed to correct behavior, right? And that's not what they're supposed to be doing on paper. But it is what they're supposed to be doing if you go back to the fact that they're slave catchers, right? And the problem is nobody wants to address it. Nobody wants to say, listen, policing in America is a destructive gang force that is used to murder and imprison Black people, for the most part, to create an economy that is a multi-billion-dollar industry and has been for quite some time. Is also used to create the wedge within the different communities between Black people and white people, so they don't understand that their interests align far more than they break up. This guy, this particular police officer, put the gun to the back of this man's head and shot him. The fact that there are no charges lets you know how disgustingly corrupt and deliberate policing is as an act. It's evil. He pulled his gun out of his holster. He put it firmly to the back of the man's head and pulled the trigger. He yelled, "Let go of the taser," when the man didn't have the taser, and then pulled the trigger. So he murdered that man on camera. He didn't shoot to wound. He didn't shoot to protect his own life or serve the community. He killed that man because he felt like killing that man. And that's murder. And the fact that there are no charges, that's all I gotta hear. That's all I gotta hear. And we can go around on it, but at this point I can't accept anything other than these people are out to get us. This is a deliberate thing, and they know it. And we got to stop. We always asking for the low fruit. We always asking for the easy thing. Like I heard a comedian say, he said, "Yeah, Black Lives Matter." Why is that a controversial statement?
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're asking for matter.
Yeah.
We're not asking for equal.
It's better.
We're not asking for. And we're saying matter. That's like the lowest thing you can get. Just say that we matter, and they're like, "Nah."
John Jr. says a concealed carry permit person couldn't get away with that. Why should a cop? He murdered that boy. 100% agree with that. Latrell says they're not slave catchers. Slave owners want their property back in working condition. They're murderers. I believe with that too. What you got, Steph?
I think that I think you would be wrong to say I think you'd be wrong to assume that everyone in the room would disagree. I can't speak on Marcus's behalf, but I feel pretty
I got no problem with anything you said.
Okay.
Not a word.
Because I think it's we have been pretty consistent about what we're seeing, what's being experienced, what's being said and not said. I earlier when I sent you guys a message, for me it's like it's no longer. I don't even want to hear the ongoing misstatement, the trope that they're behaving out of fear. I think that is dismissive at the very least. These people, he was not fearful when he was on his back. You weren't fearful of George Floyd when you had your knee on his neck. There's not fear involved. There is a power dynamic that's involved. And I do think that we can see the clear line, the dividing line behind how people are trained to treat one grouping versus how they are trained to treat others. I think it's impossible to see someone commit capital murder, like literally put a gun to the back of someone's head and pull a trigger when that means, and this person is down on the ground. Now at that point, he's not even on all fours. He's prone. He's on the ground flat. And you pull the gun out. And it's the first thing you do, gun out directly to the head. You have him under control at this point. He even says, you hear him when he says, "Don't grab the taser, I won't," or something to that. There is a moment where he's verbally acknowledging that he's giving up. And the gunshot occurs after that. You're on his back. He's not a physical threat because you're on his back. And the gunshot occurs after that. The taser was deployed. There is no threat if he gets that deployed taser. They don't wind themselves back in and reshoot. And most of them can only go off twice at that moment. So this was already a utilized tool. It was now considered a dead instrument. So there's no risk there. And
does he know how to use it?
Yeah, and even if he does, at the end of the day, taser versus a bullet to the back of the head, and you can see in the video, there's a lot of swatting away. It's always shocking to me that people forget what your natural reaction is to standard behaviors or to fear. It wouldn't matter if a cop was going to swing his arm at me or a regular guy in a t-shirt. My same reaction is going to be to throw my hands up or attempt to defend myself. It doesn't matter the situation you're in. It is your reflex. If you are trying to shoot someone, you ever seen, and I hate to use this, but we've seen it, a child trying to avoid the strap, so to speak, trying to avoid a belt, and they will grab it, they will swat, they will move their hands, shout out to my brother Cliff who can never avoid it, but they will do all of that knowing this is my parent. Technically, I'm not supposed to hit them. You shouldn't be hitting your kids either, but that's a whole nother conversation. And they are willing to protect themselves, parent or not, by dodging, swatting the hand out. That's all we saw. And then the even more important part that tells you exactly why you should agree with what John is saying, which is that this is no longer about, whether this was unintentional or fear-based or they didn't mean it, whatever, no excuses. There's no excuses. These are intentional decisions. And the reason that you can see this is that there's a difference, and we need to start acknowledging this. There's a difference between a traffic law being broken and a criminal offense. There is a difference. And first of all, every single time they're doing that is simply to work for the tax collector. That traffic stop is simply a part of the tax collection process of wherever you live. It isn't even about the criminal nature or intent, because most of the time a traffic infraction is not criminal in nature. It's not criminal in nature. It is a misdemeanor. It's an infraction. It can't get you excluded from anything. And yet we seem to be okay and compliant when we acknowledge that someone was murdered for a traffic infraction. He could have just as simply decided to write a ticket, or, hey, you want to run? No problem. I got the tag. We'll figure out who was riding this. I mean, you Keystone cops can't figure that out. We'll figure out who was driving this. It also does bring back something I've said consistently. Police officers should have to have a college degree. If you have the legal right to take the life of someone, and clearly they do, we've seen it. They have been given the legal right to take a life. You should, at the very least, have to be in a situation of where we can validate that you went to school to learn how to critically think and critically apply the law. Half of these people don't even understand the Constitution. When they're challenged on it, they're immediately angry because ignorance reacts that way. You take somebody right off the battlefield, an angry former whatever service member, PTSD and everything else, and it's easy to put a gun in their hand. You take somebody who is fresh out of high school. They only been driving a regular car for about 3 or 4 years, frontal lobe not even fully developed, and now you put them in a position of being a police officer. It really has come to a point where it is very clear that this isn't about fear. This is about positioning. And Black people have been positioned as a threat. We have been named as public enemy number one. And the behavior that demonstrates it continues to go on. And I'm going to tell you, I'm tired of seeing Ben Crump. I'm tired. I don't want to hear him anymore.
We know when we see him, we know what it is. You guys touched on good points, so I'm going to try to go in a different direction. My biggest problem with this is how, when we all see this, our natural inclination is to be fearful of a lack of justice, because we can all watch that video and know what we saw. You're going to have those who are pro law enforcement that are going to say, well, if he'd have just followed orders, or if he'd have just complied. And I've grown weary of debating those people, because cussing out a cop or running from a cop or trying to grab the taser from a cop none of those are things that should be punishable by death. Struggling with a cop and all of these things, I fear for my life. Oh, you feared for your life when you had your knee in the back of someone who's struggling while face down on the grass. You made a good point, Steph, when you said that we have the car, we can figure out who you are. We see there are some jurisdictions around the country that have banned police chases. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're dangerous. If you chase someone who has already shown that they don't have any regard for their peers on the road, you chasing them is just
Heightens
going
that.
to inflame the situation. So what you do, you fall back, you let it go down. You probably put the bird in the air, whatever it is that you do. Maybe you got the tag and find a car later. Whatever it is that you do, you have determined that it is too dangerous to chase them. So you let them go. Not most, but a lot of jurisdictions are like that. So when I see this video, the first thing that comes to my mind is they're going to say that officer was justified because he struggled, because the brother struggled. And a struggle is often all the justification they need for the killing of these people, resisting arrest. They tried to tag George Floyd with struggling. And because he struggled, he somehow deserved to have a knee on his neck for 9 minutes or whatever it was. And so when I see this, the cynic in me says, bruh, why did you struggle? And I shouldn't be forced to do that. That is, as a Black man, my own version of post-traumatic stress disorder, because as far back as I can remember, police encounters with our people, particularly our men, have ended up in some sort of negative situation. My father was listening to the show a few weeks ago, and he tell him the story about what happened to y'all. Now, I told that story that night, how the police were harassing my older brother and me. Now, that obviously didn't end in any loss of life, and it didn't even end with them beating us up or nothing like that. But it certainly ended with them harassing us to the point where they arrested my brother. My father was asleep, had to call him out of his sleep to come and pick us up. And I'm a 15-year-old boy who is abandoned by law enforcement as they take my guardian away from me. So many things wrong with that. And that's a minor situation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the situation with
dangerous. It endangered you.
It endangered me. The situation with me should have been enough for us all to be outraged, but it doesn't even register because people dying. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I can't speak for y'all, but first of all, let me go back to speak freely to you, John. I have a problem with words you said. Often I do. This time I didn't, because you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And when I see this, man, I just get so frustrated because I have no reasonable expectation of justice prevailing here. And even in this moment, 14 days after it happened, we still don't know the cop's name. And he's somewhere getting paid. We getting this comment here from our sister and our legal eagle Tamika Robinson. And it's always a joy and a pleasure when she's participating as our resident attorney. We value your position and the things that you say and your perspective. And let's see. Let me see if I can I got that nice setup, and then I don't have your comment right in front of me. I'm a terrible person. There are plenty. I don't know what this acronym is. Maybe it's legal speak, but there are plenty of LEOs.
Law enforcement officers.
Okay, there you go. There are plenty of law enforcement officers that have at least associate degrees, lots of times in criminal justice studies, and a lot more that are veterans. One of the biggest issues for me, and something that I consistently speak to my law enforcement officer friends about, is the blue wall. They know, capital no, they know their colleagues are about the BS, and yet they're complicit. And it's the whole don't snitch thing that they'll tell you, just tell us so that we can solve your crimes. And then when we got a crime in their own ranks, they won't snitch.
So
John, jump in here.
I want to start with that. Yeah, listen, I know enough police, and this is a New York experience, so forgive me if it ain't like this where you are. Cops don't like snitches. Cops don't like people that tell on other people involved in crime. They don't think they do. That's not something they like. They'd rather beat it out of you. But if you're just ready to give up and tell on somebody, they think very little of you because they have a strong no snitching policy within the force. Yeah, there are quite a few police officers who get degrees, especially because usually the department will pay for them to go to school. and they try to be lawyers, prosecutors, different. They try to take themselves into different directions and hopefully get promotions based on their education. But the problem isn't the officer, right? Just like when I talk about white people, the problem is not your neighbor Tom and his wife and their lovely children. It's not the problem. The problem's not the officer. The problem is the systemic, constructed, deliberate, evil racism that this country is built on that nobody wants to have the conversation about. You don't think people in the White House heard about this incident? You don't think it's glaring enough for someone to say, listen, this ends now. Not on my watch. This ends now. We're going to have federal reform on policing. We're going to have a minimum national standard for police officers. They're going to have whatever level of education. They're going to have to be retrained, and they're going to have to get recertification at least every 2 years to be competent to carry a weapon that takes lives. And they have to be instructed and told that the community that they're in, these are not your children. You can't just run around yelling instructions to people and get mad when they don't do what you say. It's not my job to do what you tell me. Especially in a traffic stop, that's not even a legal situation. We're talking about ordinances. These are ordinances. These aren't laws. These are summonses, ticketable offenses. Has nothing to do with law, right? But you want to turn it, you want to take something that's very simple, right? And you want to create something else. You want to say I resisted. You want to say that I was this, that I obstructed, and all this other nonsense that you don't even know what you're talking about, so that you can take me in and run me through the system to create a profile. See, that's what they do in New York. I can speak for New York, and I'm thinking this is national. It's what they do. They, especially with black men, they pull you over on a traffic stop. They find some reason to say that you did something wrong, to take you in to the precinct to print you, right? So now you got prints in the system. And if you don't know how to go get them back, your prints stay in the system. In New York, they do retina scans. They pull you into the precinct and they send you into the, when they send you into the bookings, they do retinal scans. They fingerprint you 3 times. They do a retinal scan. And sometimes they try to get some DNA off you to put it in your records so that they can have something to hold you on, right? They're creating this dossier for you, right? And then aside from that, you got to understand something, right? When dealing with these people, their mindset is not to serve and protect. Their mindset is to kick ass and hurt people and let them know. I've heard this from officers, from sergeants. Let them know we not playing with them. Let them know that they can't mess with us. That's the mentality. That's that evil gang shit that's going on in this country, and nobody wants to address it. And like you said, the no snitching in the police force, I carry that over. I carry it over, and I'm not letting anybody go, right? All of these so-called liberal, progressive people, political and otherwise, news media, politicians, whoever you are, you call yourself progressive and liberal. If you're not ready to stand up and call that man a murderer for putting a gun firmly against the back of that man's skull and blowing his brains out, then you are a racist piece of shit too.
Yeah.
You are.
That's
that part.
That part stuff.
That part right there. I mean, first of all, I hate those videos. It's trauma porn. I think some people get off on it. I do think there's an element of, well, thank God the videos exist, right? But we don't necessarily get what we need from them. There's a point I want to make about the education thing. I heard what the Legal Eagle said. I even hear John. But when I saw that the other day, I started looking up some studies and things like that. I was like, there's got to be an issue. And so 83% of agencies in the United States require nothing more than a high school diploma. 75% of all instances of poor behaviors, 75% in this study of the instances of poor behaviors were officers who had no education beyond high school diploma. It demonstrated that the numbers significantly dropped with someone that had a 2 or 4 year degree. As a matter of fact, they said that officers with undergrad degrees performed on par with officers who had 10 years of additional experience. Part of it was stress management. And that is a part of critical thinking. When you're it's funny. It's like when you sit in an environment with traumatized individuals who don't know how to manage their trauma, say little kids, right? We'll talk about behaviors in quote unquote urban schools and things like that. Those kids have traumas. They're coming to school with food insecurity, housing insecurity, and all of those things. You could go to the next neighborhood. It could have the same racial demographic, but have a totally different socioeconomic demographic. They are going to be better educated. They're going to be less likely to exact their trauma on other people. The traumas are not there. These individuals don't know how to manage stress. So the system works very well for them. This is an opportunity for me to execute my stress on individuals. So taking the type of people that react to these stressors this way and putting them in a system that says this is okay is a double whammy. You take someone who has that next level of college education or that next level of education. I mean, I think we should expect that the people that are entitled to make decisions about whether because they are being entitled to make decisions about whether we make it home or not should be able to think out the situation. You get out of your car and the first thing you do is pull out a gun and a guy is standing on the side of the road with a car that has an expired tag. Nothing in my educated mind tells me that a gun is an immediate response to this. I also want to, someone sent me a thing because her husband is a retired cop. She sent me something on Facebook that said, I really, really hope you understand that their only job, the only thing that they're trying to do, and you have to understand it, is go home at the end of the night. I do understand that. I do understand that. And I understand also that you will make sure you go home at the end of the night. Even, I'll say it this way. Yes, that is your job. That's what you're looking to do. But that fear doesn't make you not engage. Because if I really want to go home at the end of the night, I'm not pulling a gun on a guy for a traffic infraction. I'm limiting the amount of times I pull my weapon. And so what that tells you is that argument, while everyone loves it, and I get it, and I know they are trained that way, it doesn't dismiss the fact that they engage in these ways aggressively, assertively, and overbearing manner with no concern for whether they go home or not at night. This is purely about aggression and allowing someone to know who has the upper hand. He knew he was being recorded and still had no problem. I mean, this isn't he shot him in the back. This is a kill shot. Murdered someone because their tag didn't match the vehicle they were in. In many states, you get a summons. You didn't even realize that the cop saw you. And you have to show up at night court. We know in New York, and night court, standard traffic court. This is someone who needs to be immediately identified. The nature of how he shot this individual, to me, should become immediately a conversation of leave without pay. suspended without pay until we figure it out. And if we figure out that you were right, we'll give you your money back. We'll give you your back pay. But there needs to be an immediate consequence. And then on top of it, the money that is being paid when people are filing these wrongful death lawsuits, it needs to come out of the pension fund. No more of the citizen paying for that.
Yeah.
There's no repercussion for the cop.
Yeah.
Lose my job, go to a new precinct, a new jurisdiction.
You know, when I see these things, Steph, John, you know, they make it so much easier for the officer, and I think they use the guise of the sacrifice that they have to make for policing, and how to speak to the point of rolling up on the person with the expired tags or whatever was on the side of the road. Like, you don't know what that dude or that person got going on.
Right.
So as the officer rolling up on that, you should be protecting yourself. That's what they'll tell you. You know, the whole argument of they want to come home at night. Like, you know, part of me understands that because you don't know what you're dealing with.
But wouldn't you reduce the amount of negative interactions you have? If
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying any of this to justify any of it. But I guess what I am saying is I understand how, as Black people, the worst of us often represents us. And I don't know that I want to paint all of us with that same broad brush. Having said that, when I see their interactions specifically with us, it leaves a lot to be desired. When we see situations like this, where this just doesn't happen to other people, other demographics, no matter what they'll tell you, you know,
if it does, it's a one-off.
And it's
here
yeah,
and there.
and it's just, you know, every single video that we see becomes more and more egregious than the last one. Let me get a quick shout out before I finish my point. Our brother Edgar is checking us out. He's saying hello from Puerto Rico. Peace to you, Edgar. Thank you for rocking with it. Thank you, brother. Thank you,
brother Edgar.
It's just, you know, they make it so easy for them to do these things with impunity. And I don't think, it's not, I don't think, like, I know they don't care what we think, because if they cared what we thought, then they would handle the aftermath of these situations with a lot more grace. I like what you just said, Steph, about how the honorable thing would be to take that gun and badge from the killing officer. Don't pay him shit until this thing has been resolved.
Exactly.
And if, you know, because you should be, you kill somebody, you should be suspended, and you don't get paid with suspension. You know, so it's just, it frustrates me because it's so common, and every single video is more and more egregious. Like with the kid in Sacramento, you saw him running through the backyard. He's running from the police. And he gets shot. He's shot in the back. You know,
where's the threat?
I don't know.
Getting away is not enough of a threat for murder.
Well, you're trying to get away, you know, and this narrative that they fear for their lives is just, I get frustrated because I often don't know what else to say. Like we've been doing, like I said, I've been doing this 11 years almost, and certainly talking about this for far longer than that.
Sure.
And there does not seem to be any, the people who are in the position to be outraged and actually do something about this don't do anything. John, you made a great point earlier when you talked about how on a presidential level, there should be some oversight. When we look at presidential level, they will often defer to the local authorities and say, that ain't got nothing to do with me. And I guess in some ways I understand that, because you don't want to be heavy-handed and tell these folks how to do their job on one hand. But on the other hand, when you see that there clearly is a trend,
an epidemic,
and this is something that, you know, all you have to do is the research and the documentation, and you can see this. It's not like this is hard. Like, it's not because we're Black people and we're extra sensitive and it's like, oh my God, it's us this keeps happening to. Like, how many times in 11 years almost of being on the radio have I come on here and rattled off the top of my head the names of Black men and women that have been killed by the police? And how many of them have had the shooter or the killing officer actually have real consequences that would include a legitimate jail sentence, not just a slap on the wrist, not just a oops, my bad, I came into your home, I didn't realize this was your home, let me go to jail for a couple years. You know what I'm saying? And it's just
mentioning that case makes me sick.
Yeah, it's outrageous, John. Go ahead, jump in here. I don't see you double dutching there.
The boy went into the church, shot 9 people. They found him with the murder weapon on him.
Dylan Ruth.
Right. They brought him in and took him to Burger King and then brought him into the precinct.
Dylan Ruth.
All right. Recently, a man was they knew they was after somebody violent. They were executing a warrant on somebody who was suspected of committing murder. This man stabbed a police officer multiple times and was taken into custody without serious injury. But it wasn't life-threatening.
No, he wasn't.
They didn't put the gun to the back of his head.
Matthew Lance.
Yeah.
That's his name.
They didn't put the gun to the back of his head and blow his brains out.
Cobb County, Georgia, Matthew Lance. That's the story that you're talking about.
So that lets you understand how this thing goes. I've seen countless videos of these white folks, and white folks, I ain't getting at you. I mean, do your thing. I seen them get out the car, yell at the police.
Do your thing.
That
was so Brooklyn just now, right? Do your thing.
I mean, for real.
I mean, for real. You kept it funky.
They get out the car. They put their hands in the police face. They threaten them. They threaten their job. They threaten them with physical violence. They say what they're going to do to them when they out of uniform. I seen this one couple arguing with the cop. The cop gave him, he said, give me the guy. He snatched it out the cop hand and damn near ran the cop over. They pulled him over again and pulled him out the car, but they ain't beat him up. They ain't put a gun in the back of his head and blow his brains out. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many of these interactions are available online if you care to see them. It's ad nauseum at this point. So again, we have to, and the go home thing, like you said. Yeah, you listen. Right now, if you drive to New York, if you don't have an Easy Pass, there's like 4 tolls that you can't pay cash. 4 tolls. They will not. You're just gonna get your plate. They're gonna send you something in the mail, right? If you don't have an Easy Pass. So stuff like a ticket on the back of your car for stuff like that, the man could just go on the computer. Yes. He could have he could have sat in his car and wrote the ticket. When the man got out, he could have just put the ticket on the car. He could have handed the man the ticket.
He could have sent systems to send it in.
Like you said,
we even know you got.
Like you said, we get them in the mail.
Yes,
all the time. So whatever the case was, there was no reason for him to have an assumption that this man was a violent criminal, other than the fact that his skin was brown.
And I will say there, and I don't know this to be true or false. Now, of course, everyone is bringing up his past, and he was arrested for this, that, and the other.
Who gives that? It wasn't that day.
That wasn't what was occurring in the moment.
It wasn't that day, and that cop didn't know.
Well, and even if he did, which you can pull someone's record while you're in the car, so we don't want to assume where he did.
No, I'm assuming because if he did know, he wouldn't have been asking him for his license. And did he have a license and all that other dumb shit?
But what I will say is, when you're looking, at this situation, whatever he did beforehand, every single time you're getting pulled over, it is on the merit of that moment.
Yeah.
And whatever a judge, whatever disposition your other cases were in front of a judge, unless you are breaking a crime clearly related to one of those things, there's just no way you can get from A to B without seeing how wrong this is. And if you can't, I mean, we're beating a dead horse. Let's keep it pushing.
Here's what it is. You're taking a sledgehammer into an operating room.
Yep.
Right? There's no need. First of all, there's no need for cops to be pulling people over, period. Like you said, that's pure tax collection.
Yep.
Right? Police need to be present visibly in the community so that people can see that they're there, so that people are not committing dumb, stupid crimes. Right? And then they need to go to where they are called to de-escalate a situation or to observe something that's potentially a crime. And then they need to detain the people till they can be processed where a warrant can be issued so they can be arrested, right? Regular uniform 10 soldiers, like we call them, with no color on their badge, are not, in most cases, able to even effect a warrant or an arrest. What they're doing is a detention. And none of that should never carry in deadly violence. If you can't take a person into custody without killing them, call for backup. Or let them go until you can get them later. Right? If that's if taking someone into custody means taking their life, don't do it.
But here's what's going to happen. When this thing plays all the way out, a year from now, 2 years, whatever it is, you will surprise me if this police officer is charged, 1, and 2, convicted. Because we saw the video, but it doesn't take much for them. And I guess I mean look in the camera when I say this, in case there's any police officers who want to call up and say that I'm wrong or come for me anonymously or with your name. You know, we know how this is going to turn out. And we know that it's going to be the fact that this man resisted. And it doesn't matter the level of resistance, because we've seen it not matter in the past. We've seen the fact that the minimal amount of resistance, the justification is going to be however the police officer dispensed with you after your resistance. And so if you try to run, we saw in South Carolina, and there's so many of these, the names, of course, escape me, but we saw the one in South Carolina where the dude was running away and a police officer stood by and shot him in the back
several times.
And he didn't get charged.
But listen,
he didn't get charged. You know what I'm saying? And so the PTSD that we all have here is that we don't expect this to turn out fairly.
No,
we have no reasonable expect. And so when we all sat and watched the trial of Chauvin for murdering George Floyd in front of all them people who were there and all the rest of us who saw it, when he kneeled on this man's neck for 9+ minutes, where people there, including other police officers, implored this man to stop. We heard experts show up in court and try to put that shit on drugs or any other reason they could put on other than saying this fucking cop killed this man in front of everybody. We're going to see this. What's going to be the difference? What's going to be the difference when we see this, if he's charged, if he's even charged, when we see, because we're going to see the struggle. We're going to see him running. We're going to see him reaching for the taser. And we're going to see all that. We're going to see all of that. And the justification is going to be, well, he was resisting and he was struggling and he was fighting. But what it will not come to is the fact that he was subdued. He was face down on the ground. He was not a threat. And at the most vulnerable moment for this man, the police officer reached into his holster.
Calmly.
He pulled out his weapon. He pointed it to the back of this man's head.
Placed it on his head.
And he pulled the trigger. Some folks think I'm smart. I stayed at Holiday Inn once or twice. I ain't the smartest dude in the world. I'm probably not even the smartest one in this room. But I know what I saw.
No denying
it. I know what I saw. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J live from New Dan Legacy and that radio. Our sister Michelle is checking us out. She said that her text was way too long to address this topic.
Call in, sis.
That
Call
means
in.
anybody that's ever listening to this show or watching, rather, if you look at the bottom, the phone number is always scrolling. And so if you ever right on time, right on time. All right, so let me see if I could get back to the phones and see about getting this caller. All right, caller, you on a live line? What's your name? What's your comment?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
We can hear you fine, caller. What's your name? Who are you?
This is Tamika Robinson.
Hey, it's our legal.
Hey, sis.
What's happening, man? It's good to hear your voice. What's your comment on this topic? Go ahead, we got you. Go ahead. What's your comment?
I think she's listening on the feed instead of the phone.
Are you with us, Tamika? I don't know what's going on with their phone, but I got you going once. I got you going twice. I hate to have to let you go, but we can't hear you and you're not saying anything.
Call back.
Can you hear us? All right, we had to let you go. Call us back, Tamika. For whatever reason, we lost you, but absolutely call us back. But this is something that I haven't said much often, but for those folks who always want to know what's the phone number, and I get people text me like while I'm on the show, what's the phone number? It's always scrolling, so it's there. And Tamika, if you're
adjust your screen because sometimes they can't see it at the bottom.
If you're still listening, Tamika, then by all means, call us back. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. Go ahead, John. You wanted to get in?
Yeah, we have grown to accept this, right? So if you debate, if you differ in opinion, or God forbid, try to save your own life, you forfeit your life. If you're black and you're dealing with the police, you are lucky if they don't kill you, right? So, and that's the standard. And we as a nation have accepted the standard, right? And I tell people, if you got some white friends or white coworkers, try to explain that to them, that they are complicit. And in their complacency, they become the problem, right? They often say, I'm not racist and and you know, how long have you known me? And I never use the N-word. No, but you accept the fact that a black person cannot have a differing opinion with a police officer, because when they do so, they automatically put their lives in jeopardy. You can't stop somebody from trying to hurt you because of a misunderstanding, because that's what it was. The cop knew that the man had a problem with English. He even said so in the thing. They were communicating not well. The cop was not really expressing himself well as a cop. He was just telling them what to do, because I'm white and you're black, and that makes me better than you, and you have to do what I say. I've seen non-police officers, white people, talk to black people like they're supposed to listen to them because they're white. That goes on in this country every day. No, I'm white. You listen to what I tell you, right? And when people always like to tell me it's not about race, of course it is. Because when the white woman ran up to the police car frantically and the black cop shot her, he went to jail. It was no question. It was no time. It was no pause. Straight to jail. Do not go past go. Do not collect $200
for a decade.
Right? This is what happened. The white woman ran up on him. He was protecting his partner.
Noor. What was the cop's name? Something Noor.
Right?
Muhammad Noor.
Right? And the white woman goes into the man's house and shoot him while he eating ice cream on the sofa. What she got? 5? That she don't do 2? Right? I don't even know what Chauvin got or what he gonna do, but they haven't even charged this dude. He didn't point the gun at him. He put the gun on his head.
To the back of his head.
Right? That was some mob right there.
Execution.
He executed that man for trying to protect himself. The man was scared. The cop was never scared. Look at the video. The cop wasn't scared. The man was scared. He was trying to run for his life, and he wasn't aggressive. He was being defensive.
All right, so Tamika was having some issues with her phone, and so she's put her comment in. I'm going to read it since she was trying to call. I'll read her comment. She says, "Okay, so what I was trying to say was sovereign immunity is a big problem here, and federal oversight. I just don't see it coming. Policing is reserved as a state power constitutionally, but Congress can choose to take it up because there's a way for them to exercise power over policing if they choose to. The king can do no wrong," quotes. So there is no interest in the grand scheme of things to overhaul and address what is happening.
It's a simple fix. It's a simple fix for the immunity. It's a simple fix for the local policing, right? The way the Constitution works, right? The Constitution must be congruent to state constitutions and state law. And any state law must be greater than, must imply a greater right than the Constitution, or it is illegal, right? So all Congress has to do is pass a national law regarding policing, and that creates a minimum standard. So the state constitution would have to be amended to match the Constitution, right? So all of the idea of this, like the president, I can't get into it. Okay, no, nationally in the United States of America, this is how policing looks. Fix your state to match.
You know, I have Steppin Marcus J live from New Den, Legacy Internet Radio. I want to move on from this. This is still on the table. So if anybody watching and listening or participating has any subsequent comments here, by all means, this is still on the table. But I want to introduce one other thing, and we've got basically two other things that we need to get to. And in the interest of time, it's half past our final hour, so we want to move on. So we were talking, Steph, you and I and John, before we are always talking about missing people, missing children. There was a missing child case that came up that had a very interesting conclusion. There's an autistic teenager who was found after he went missing 3 years later. He's found in Utah. He's 19 years old. Connor Jack Oswalt was discovered by Summit County Sheriff's Department in Park City, Utah, where he was sitting outside a closed liquor store within a gas station in the middle of the night, cold, looking helpless. He was very, very uncooperative with the police. However, they were able to get his fingerprints, and they were able to determine who he was. He had been found recently after having been reported missing out of Northern California back in 2019. Now, normally this would not be something that we're going to talk about. Normally. But here you have this kid who like this is supposed to be a positive story, right? This is supposed to be, but you can tell by how I'm setting this up. Right?
Sure, yeah, I'm feeling celebratory.
You can tell by how I'm setting this up, right? We're supposed to be excited about
we do
this,
missing children every week.
And I am very happy that this young man is back with his family. Connor Jack. I'm not doing this with y'all, man. I'm not gonna do this.
I just was mad you thought you could avoid
Connor Jack. Yeah, you thought I was gonna be able, I thought I was gonna be able to get past and not laugh.
I was watching that. Like, you just gonna okay, well, I'm gonna do it.
Oswald. Connor Jack Oswald.
Connor
right
Jack
now, I need you
Oswald.
Hey, look, Connor Jack. One word.
That's it.
Connor
Jack. Pause.
Connor Jack. One word.
Because
Connor Jack.
In the hood, you Connor Jack.
Connor. Hey, look. Just in the interest of transparency, I was trying to be the adult here. These two right here,
Listen,
even that one.
If you've ever
even that
hold on,
one.
let me help y'all out here. If you've never watched the show before, understand we lean black. All right. So now, with that said, Connor Jack Oswald is funny to us. Right? But don't get it twisted. We would also be laughing if it was Shanika Nene.
Yeah.
Right?
Because we be like, why
Really?
why
Yeah.
you need to
Really?
both
You
of them.
couldn't get Dolores. You got Shanika Nene.
You could have went with Keisha
to do
Boy, you coulda just
commentation.
stuck
No,
to
Keisha's too
Shanika.
much like Karen.
Nothing wrong with Shanika.
So anyway,
But I
let's-
did because of the Connor Jack,
let-
because it's double head.
Let me get back to the story. But
Right.
yes, point taken, 100% agree. I guess the reason why I wanted to talk about this, I mean, we're talking about police interaction with us. And we remember the case a couple of years ago where the medical personnel was with the black autistic kid and the police shot on them.
Yes.
They shot on them.
Both of them, right?
Yes. And arrested the dude who was trying to protect the autistic kid. So we not spending no time on this. I really brought it up because I wanted to throw that shade. Unless y'all got comments, we can get out of it. I brought it up just for the sole purpose of throwing that shade.
All I got to say about it is this. It
all.
goes
That's all
back
I got.
to my opening salvo. I had a tragedy in my life recently, and it involved, to a degree, a hospital. And when I was talking to some people, I told them, I says, listen, I have to, in my own mind, assume that everybody here is performing what they believe is in the best interest of this person. Because if I can't do it that way, we're going to have another problem. So I forced myself into believing that everyone involved was acting in the best interest. I no longer can do that because I'm not stupid. I'm not by any means the smartest person in the world, smartest person in this room. I'm definitely the dumbest guy I know. But I will tell you this, I'm not stupid. You can no longer tell me that this is not deliberate action with purpose, and that these people are not murdering black people with the purpose of murdering black people
with
full
autonomy.
Stop.
With autonomy.
Yeah, great. And again, anyone who does not recognize it at this point and who wants to offer any leniency or quarter to the opposing warring factor, which is the police department in this nation, you have become the enemy, because you are, by your submission, you acquiesce, and in doing so, you empower the system to continue to operate the way it does.
And you know how Steppin with Marcus J live from New Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Like I said, I didn't bring that up because I wanted to spend any time on it. Honestly, when I pulled this story, Connor Jack Oswald did not resonate with me. It probably should have. It didn't until the two of you guys just started looking at me and giggling and stuff. And then when I realized, like, yeah, Connor Jack, yeah. Normally when they do that, they stick a hyphen in there.
What was the guy in what was that Jungle movie? Simple Jack?
Simple Jack, yeah. Cousin of Connor Jack.
Oh, that's messed up on so many levels.
Yeah.
I apologize to the Oswald family for that joke. That was insensitive, but
I don't know.
Damn, it was too much
that
of a.
just happened.
Too much of a.
Apologize for that.
All the people that probably deserve an apology from you. That's where you give
No,
it.
because that man's
Was that in jest?
that man's ability to process information
That
should
ain't
not
got
be
nothing to
made
do
light
with
of.
that ain't got nothing to do with his mama naming him Connor Jack.
But the guy Simple Jack in the movie was also like autistic or something.
Okay, that part.
Okay, well that's
Right.
fair.
Okay, I didn't get that.
We
You
won't
saw that
cancel
movie,
you
right?
because you apologize.
Where
Yeah.
more Robert Downey Jr. played a white guy playing a black guy playing a white guy.
I ain't gonna lie, but that shit was funny though. Normally I don't
Y'all
like.
are the worst.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Normally,
That was a funny movie.
normally,
Tom Cruise gave an Oscar-winning
normally,
performance in that.
anytime white people put on blackface, normally I'm ready to just not have anything positive to say. But it was just something about that was funny. I ain't even gonna lie. And if you disagree, you just disagree. But
I want to say one thing about that story though.
Tropic Thunder. That's the name.
Tropic
Thunder.
Yeah, and we're not spending a lot of time on it, but I do want to say something. Empathy is a choice, and you can decide that none of this matters, and how Connor Jack was treated in comparison to the young black boy who was autistic in Seattle that was walking home, and he was wearing the ski mask. He was saying he was cold. They were trying to grab him, and
they killed him.
They killed him.
Yep.
Because he did not understand what was going on in that process. He wasn't a danger. He was resisting simply by the nature of his condition. Empathy is a choice. And if you understand that empathy is a choice, you understand that there are times where it is not given, when it is not demonstrated. And you can lie to yourself all you want. But to hear a man screaming for his mother and you do nothing, it tells you everything you need to know about how empathy is exerted based on how much and this is because you're not truly empathetic, right? So based on how you view the other party. An empathetic human being could not stand to hear someone screaming for their mother underneath their knee. The vibration of their vocal cords on your knee as they scream, and you can ignore it. Empathy is a choice. And therefore, every single time you see something like this, you saw someone choose to be unempathetic about the life of another.
Yeah.
And if you can't understand that, I don't know what to say about it.
I'm glad that you said that, Steph. Let me tell you why. Because I, and to a lesser degree, John, was thoroughly okay with leaving that story with us making fun of Connor Jack. And there's something to be said for that.
Sure.
But to bring it full circle with regards to how we move on this show and the things that are important to us and our viewers and listeners, and to apply it to real situations that we've seen where we can show contrast to how white folks are treated when they interact with the police to how black folks are treated when we interact with police. And let me just keep it funky. It's less of us than there is of y'all. And so when we see this shit happen to us more than it happens to y'all, we get fucking mad about it. Right? And the people who are the most angry have the least amount of power.
The least.
And the people who have the most amount of power, who claim to be outraged by it, they only give thoughts and prayers. I'm about tired of thoughts and prayers. Hey, you're supposed to be appreciative when someone prays for you and thinks about you, but fuck your thoughts and prayers when it comes with empty promises of doing something that would change the circumstance. How about you change the circumstance instead of giving me your empty thoughts and prayers? And I love that you said what you just said, because as I said, John and I were going to be okay with making our jokes and moving on. And that's okay because you did too, but you also brought this. That's why I love you, and that's why you right here on the right, because this was a story that deserved more than our jest. And when you compare it, and my apologies because I can't remember the young brother who was killed by the police.
Yeah, I was trying to. I'll find it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and because I remember him saying, I'm not a criminal. I'm please don't touch me, or something that he was saying. It was something that he was saying.
He was begging them not to touch him, and it was because of his
and then they
autism.
ended up shooting him up with all of this medication to try to subdue him.
That's right.
And then he ended up dying as a result of that. That's actually why he ended up dying.
That is what happened. Yeah.
And then I remember the story. I don't remember the name. And then you add, the story that I did remember where the medical person was trying to help the autistic person, and the police was
Shot him
coming,
in the middle of the street.
coming for them.
He
It's just an
pleaded with
example.
them
He
with
was begging.
clear
He was
English.
begging. He
This
was
man
begging.
is sick.
And
I'm
he
his
was laying
caretaker.
on the ground.
No threat whatsoever.
He was laying on the ground.
They chose to try to murder them.
He was laying on the ground. He was,
and you know, the other element of that too is just simply ask yourself a very easy question. There is one group that is very comfortable calling the police for something as simple as somebody's dog pooped on my lawn.
Oh, yeah.
And there is another group that literally has people that would rather figure out how to survive a moment themselves than to pick up the phone and call the police.
No good ever came of it.
And I will tell you, if you're in the group that is very comfortable picking up the police, the phone to call the police for the most minute things you could afford to ignore, you know exactly what position you're in.
You already know. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J. Live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. Sue says he was on the ground with his hands up. He was on the ground with his hands. He was on the ground with his hands up.
And they have pictures of it.
Yeah, we all saw it. We have video of it. We saw it. All right. So here's the last thing that we want to get to. We want to talk about tonight, Steph. I want to talk a little bit about politics and marketing with regards to our political parties.
Yeah.
Democrats and Republicans. And there's a reason why I want to talk about this. It everything kind of plays in with each other. I'll let you kind of set it up and lead the conversation, but ultimately that's where we're going here. So let's talk about it.
Sure. And by the way, Elijah McClain,
that was his name.
It wasn't me. It's just Google.
Yeah.
So lately we've been watching everything that's been going on, obviously, you know, in the world, here in the US and so on. And we talk about this I'd speak about this in the sense of Democrats and Republicans, because right now we're a two-party system. I know other parties are in existence, but we're voting in a two-party system. And one party does a phenomenal job with their sales and marketing campaign, even if it means repeating the same lie over and over and over again until it snowballs into 600,000 believers or 8 million voters. They're going to just keep repeating the lie. And or repeating their truth, if you want me to be nice about it, but it's a lie. And that's the Republicans. And they are so committed to it that they're committed to it in spite of what monumental changes it makes to the face of their party. At this stage in the game, while I've always considered myself independent, there's no way possible I can vote for a Republican just because the party has no platform. But what they do have is stellar marketing. On the other hand, we have the Democrats who struggle to be able to communicate anything on a 5th grade level. Just make it plain. What are the good things going on, and what are you going to do about the bad things? It seems to be nearly impossible. And there are these moments where, while there are just as many Republican senators and congressmen that are Harvard and high-level educated as the Democrats, the Democrats do a very good job of making themselves look like out-of-touch elites, just like the Republicans say. While we know both of these parties are out of touch with the mainstream basic lives of the individuals that are living in the United States, supporting their healthcare platform that they get for life and so on and so forth, the Democrats do a horrible job of selling anything. They did a horrible job of selling Obamacare when Obama was trying to pass it. Even though people were agreeing with it, there were too many people who did not for you to really think it was a great sales campaign. It didn't become as popular as it did until it just became the status or the status quo for so many people that really that was the tipping point. So I look at it now and I'm like, two-party system for all intents and purposes. One party has mastered the art of selling the messaging, no matter if it's false or not, consistently and getting results. The other party can't even sell their wins. What's left? What's left? Because people are going to believe the messaging that gets across clearly. John, what do you think about that?
I think it's more than two parties. We got the Tea Party, we got the Woke Party, we got the Democrats, and the Republicans. Right?
The Q-publicans, actually.
Q-publicans. Yeah, Q-publicans. And it's pathetic. The Tea Party knows what to do. The first thing they do is they find their dog whistles and whatever it is that's their voting base, and they hype them up. The voters never realize that they don't never do anything they said they was going to do for them. They just vote for them. When they talk about all this stupidity, they just vote for them. And here goes the thing. Your senators and stuff, they don't really live in your state. They live in a part of your state that ain't your state for real. And most of the time they spend in their house, their home apartment in DC that you pay for. So when they ban abortion where you live, that don't mean that they daughter who got knocked up by a black guy ain't gonna have an abortion, because they're gonna take her someplace where it's got abortions. But you are not gonna be able to get an abortion for your daughter or for your wife that got raped. Right? Because you believe that's what they were doing for your best interest. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. All of these trigger words and false I call it false campaigns. And the problem with the Democrats is, yeah, y'all are as bad as y'all say. Look, Hunter Biden's emails. It was an issue. Yeah, he took a job that he didn't deserve. He got money because of political influence. Yes. That didn't make Trump a good president, and it didn't make Joe Biden a bad one. But because y'all danced around it and tried to pretend like it didn't happen, y'all look like a bunch of liars selling fake news.
But wait a minute. So to the same point, we have ignored a president with 21 different sexual accusers. We have ignored a Republican president who attempted to bribe a leader who is now under consistent bombing.
If he would have had those weapons,
he may have. Exactly. So that particular piece, both parties dance around every single element.
But here goes the difference.
And on the sales part, the only part that really screws them up is Democratic voters are not going to vote no matter what. They're not going to give you they're not as loyal to the cause with a no matter what clause as the Republicans.
I think they are. The problem is the Democrats are not willing to sell them on the bullshit that they want. Because there's a lot of bullshit that Democrats want, and go ahead and sell it to them. Universal health care. Go ahead and sell it to them. Free college for everybody. Go ahead and sell it to them. Because guess what? In a number of states, if you live in the state, you got free college. Ooh. Sell it like a political win. Sell it. You'll get people to vote for you. Legalizing marijuana. It's going to happen. Sell it anyway. Lie about it. Tell them you get high. You'll get votes. Even if you don't. Democrats aren't prepared to do that. And that's the problem. So Republicans know what they're doing, right? And as far as those women, nobody never tried to downplay it. Nobody never tried. The Republicans never backed away from it. They was like, and that was their response. And whenever they were asked, the president has 21, and
no, a lot of them were like, they also were like, I'm not going to comment on that.
That's and.
I don't know if I see that as I see that
because guess what?
Dancing away
guess what?
It.
That's not dancing away.
And that's and so what?
So what? What you gonna do?
What? Yeah.
What's the repercussion?
That's how I take.
You coming for me? No, you're not coming for me. All right, so that. Right now, here's what the Democrats do. Let a dude Biden sniff the girl's hair. They tried to call him anything but a child of God, and the Democrats jumped in on it. Well, Joe was that way, and nah. listen, do it. No comment.
What's the Saturday Night Live dude? That was a senator. That
Franken. Al Franken.
Yeah.
And mayor.
He should not be gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Neither on the low speaker. Neither should what was the dude in New York? Not Cuomo. The other one.
Not Weiner.
The black dude.
Yeah, Weiner.
The blonde one.
Nah, Weiner. Well, the blonde was he ain't had no. Did he have a
Weiner
scandal
should
too?
be gone.
Yeah, Weiner should be
Weiner
gone.
needed to be gone. This was underage people too.
It was underage.
Yes, there were.
Was it underage?
Borderline, like just turned 18, can't prove when those.
He was on some Joe Morrissey shit.
Yeah.
Inside joke for us
Google
Richmond.
it.
Yeah.
Google
Outside of Richmond, Google that.
Google it and put Joe Morrissey plantation photo.
But wait.
Oh
my God.
Hold on now.
Whoa.
Hold on now. Let's get back to this though, right? But see, his own came for him on that, right? Had he been a Republican, the Republicans would have skirted that line. She was 18. Legal consent is 17 in New York. And what are you talking about? They would have jumped on. They would have supported him, and he would have went nowhere. Democrats feed on their own on a regular, and that is a problem.
I think the elephant in the room in this conversation, and I was waiting for one of you guys to bring up that you didn't bring up, and I know you just didn't bring it up because you wanted to make your own points. So I'll make this one. Is the race conversation. Like,
it's all racism.
Well, the race conversation when we saw the switch in the 60s from, I always like to give this history because there are plenty of people walking around thinking that black folks have always been Democrats and Republicans have always been racist and all this kind of stuff. I mean, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Well, he started off a Whig, but became a Republican. And when he, air quotes, because this is bullshit, freed the slaves, when black folks got the right to vote, the first thing they did was vote Republican. And they did it for 100 years. It began to wane around 75 years later. But in the 60s, when the racist borderline Republican Democratic President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Bill and the Voter Rights Bill, black people solidified themselves behind the Democratic vote, and the Southerners did not like that, and so they switched to the Republican Party. Those Dixiecrats switched to the Republican Party. That's a history lesson. And so when you look at the breakdown between how our people vote, black people consistently vote Democrat today, well over 90%.
Yeah.
Well over 90%. And so with that comes an inherent laziness from the Democratic Party because they know that those votes are already built in. They ain't got to do nothing for it. They ain't got to do nothing for it. They know these people are going to vote for us. If you look at Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Barack Obama being the black man in the middle, and miss me with the bullshit about Bill Clinton. Like, he's not the first black president just because his daddy was black. Look that up. Yeah, you drop jewels, man. People need to know certain things, right? But this is why we vote that way. And this is why they can come to the church during the election cycle and smile in your face and then don't do shit after election day. Whereas the Republicans know they ain't got to. But for what? You ain't gonna vote for us anyway. And unless you get somebody who's used to lying with smoke and mirrors like Donald Trump, who will come on and tell you all the black people support me. It's like, no, they don't. Like, no, we really don't rock with you. This is why they don't have to do anything. So when you talk about marketing and politics and all of that kind of stuff, if you want to get into the specific issues and abortion versus how you feel on either side of that, we can have that conversation. But if we talking specifically breaking it down and keeping it all the way funky, everything in this country is about race. Everything. Unaffected white people will tell you, why are you always talking about race? We should all be together. Why are we always talking about Jesus is white versus Jesus is black? What difference does it make? What difference does it make is because Shaggy from Scooby-Doo looks more like you than he does me. and the police officer looks like you than he does me. And so the authority here looks more like you than it does me. Going back to John's point, which is the reason why when they speak, they think you automatically supposed to listen to them. You know, and unless you've been in that, you don't understand it. So you might want to argue with me, Mr. White person or Miss White person, who've never been in that because you think you're a good person. And you probably are. You probably are. But in this country, we are all, us, y'all, police, everybody, culturally conditioned to move a certain kind of way. And those of us who choose not to move within those confines, usually, depending on your reach and your power, I'm Marcus J. I speak this way. I ain't got the kind of reach and power that others have. So, yeah, I could probably get away with saying the shit I say. But if I had a greater audience, and if I had more access, and if I was on a grander scale, speaking the way I certainly, John, with respect to you, we might be considered dangerous. And we might get shot in the face standing on a balcony. Or we might get people who look like us who are paid to shoot us in the chest in front of all our people. Or we might get shot on our terrace driving up from helping people learn how get the right to vote and get shot on our own driveway in front of our wife and children. Do the math or the knowledge, do the knowledge on who I just named 3 civil rights leaders. Look them up. They all dead because they black. And they all dead because of politics. Politics. That's why they going. So we know what it is. Republicans, they don't care about us. We are, as Jay-Z would say, the dirt on the shoulder. Politically. Individually, hey, I'm not saying all them racist. If that's what you hearing from me, that's a you problem. That ain't what I'm saying. I'm saying the machine, and I'm saying the method of politics, and I'm saying the way white supremacy, law enforcement, and all of these things work in this country. This is not a conspiracy. This is a plan. This shit was created to be this way. So what you gonna do? You gonna work within it? You gonna live within it? Or you gonna be a rabble rouser? You answer that question on your own. And you know how Steppin Marcus J live from New Den, Legacy and then Radio. I'll give you each an opportunity to have your final statement. I said what I'm gonna say. We're gonna move on to our rants and our closes. But if you guys have something that you want to say on this topic, you know, then John, you take the final word.
No, I listen. That's been my mantra from day one on me being a regular here on the show. Knowing what it is, okay. With all of the information that I have, I got a lot of information in my head. Sometimes I lose things in my brain because it's on overload. I spent a good portion of the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, being very active in the legal system in New York City as a Moor. I've gone into court, I've gone into precincts, and I've spoken truth to power, and I've helped people. Knowing the system, the way that I know the system and understand the system the way I do, you just need to really take a minute, slow down and think. And I'm speaking, if there's any white people listening, or if there are any black people listening who have a whole lot of white friends and are cringing a little bit when we speak about these things, you have to just remember, it's not the individuals, it's the system. And when it becomes the individuals is when they will not acknowledge that the system is evil and that is by design. Once you give people information in their face that is checkable with empirical evidence of it, with historical fact, where the opposing side gives the information, it's not coming from me, it's coming from who I am opposing. The oppressor gives the information and you will not accept it at that point because you just can't conceive of the fact that you are a part of the system because you acknowledge your white existence, right? That's why I say, when I say white people are racist, right? It's not the fact that you're white, it's the fact that you acknowledge the fact that you're white. And once you acknowledge the fact that you're white above the fact that you're a human being, right, you are then a participant in the system, right? I got more in the rant, but let's get on for time.
Ain't no how Steppin Marcus, J Live from New Den Legacy and that radio. I'm happy, y'all, and excited because we've got a long time listener that's checking in, and I know he's with us when he can be, but he hadn't always checked in recently. 502, baby. My brother Hakeem from Jersey City, one of my oldest friends, is checking us out, and I'm happy, bro. I'm happy that you were here with us tonight. He says Dems have a moral high ground or pretend to be, and Republicans don't even try to pretend. You said very short and concise what I was long-winded in making that same point, and I appreciate you because you always bring it home, brother. One of the smartest men I know, and I appreciate this man. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus, J Live from New Den Legacy and that radio. At this time of the show, we always make sure we profile a missing and/or exploited child. This week is no different. We're looking for 3 young black men, 2 from Henrico, 1 from Richmond. We're going to start with Lopez Hughes. He's missing out of the Cap City here in Richmond, Virginia on April 7th. It's the last time we knew where Lopez Hughes was. He's 14. He's 5'8". He weighs 115 pounds. Last seen possibly wearing black sweatpants and a white tank top. He requires medication and may be in the need of medical attention. If you've seen Lopez Hughes, please contact the Richmond and/or Chesterfield County Police Department at 804-748-1251. We're also looking for Jade Harvey. Since April 12th, his family haven't had eyes on him. He's 13. He's 4'10". He weighs 90 pounds. He was last seen wearing gray and black jacket, red and blue shoes. His hair is styled in a small afro. If you've seen Harvey, my apologies, Jade Harvey, please contact the Henrico County Police Department at 804-501-5000. Lastly, we're looking for Keyshawn Curtis. He's been missing since April 15th. He's a 15-year-old black male. He's 5'1", weighs 145 pounds. Keyshawn was last seen wearing a black Nike hoodie and distressed black jeans. He has a small scar on his right cheek. If you've seen Keyshawn Curtis, please contact the Henrico County Police Department at 804-501-5000. So let's go back and recap this. If you have seen Lopez Hughes out of Richmond and Chesterfield, if you've seen Jade Harvey, or if you have seen Keyshawn Curtis, either of them out of Henrico County, please contact the National Center for Missing and/or Exploited Children on their website, missingkids.org, or contact them by phone at 1-800-THE-LOST, 1-800-843-5678. Hakeem is replying 502, baby, all day, every day. Good show as always, and I'm glad I caught it, and we are glad you caught it as well. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J, live from New Den Legacy and their radio. Pull out my trusty map of Black History facts. Ironically speaking, this was gifted to us by our brother Hakeem. Yeah. All right. So as I go through the calendar here, let's see what we got. 2006. David Richardson, a Latino 16-year-old who was brutally beaten and sexually assaulted after trying to kiss a white girl at a party in Texas, testifies before Congress in support of hate crimes. So he was beaten and sexually assaulted because he tried to kiss a girl in 2006. Okay, I'm going to do 3 more because the last one I'm going to do, we're all going to remember. 2012, first decision under North Carolina's Racial Justice Act finds that racial bias infected Marcus Robinson's capital trial 18 years earlier and commutes his death sentence to life without parole. 2007, Turner County High School in Ashburn, Georgia holds its first racially integrated prom. In previous years, parents had organized private segregated proms for white and black students. So 2007 is the first time they had a integrated prom. Integrated. Yeah. Last one I'm gonna get to, and we're all gonna remember this from 1989. 5 black and Latino teens are arrested for raping a jogger in New York City's Central Park and spend more than a decade in prison before being exonerated. We know them then as the Central Park 5 and now as the exonerated 5. Let us never ever forget that Donald Trump took out a full page ad in one of the New York full page ad in one of the New York City tabloids calling for the execution of boys. I think it was the Daily News. But either way, I wasn't sure, so I didn't say, but it was one of the two of them. It may have been. But yeah, this is 1989 Donald Trump. And for those folks who are local, who had given me drama about being obviously against him as a leader and a president, and those folks on a national scale, because obviously for the entirety of the farce that was his presidency, we were on the air, and I would get people, particularly in social media, not so much on the show, because for some reason we don't get a lot of white people that participate. I guess for whatever reason this isn't their lane, or they choose not to listen to us or watch us, or for whatever reason. And I suppose I respect that, because ain't nobody checking for Hannity and them. But yeah, we talked about this a lot. And for those folks who were given their introduction to Donald Trump by watching The Apprentice, which, in the interest of full disclosure, I enjoy watching The Apprentice. It was entertaining as hell. I enjoy. You're fired. Hey, look, I thought it was cool, but he wasn't president, so I could watch that and enjoy that. But when that energy translated into the White House and the Oval Office, it just wasn't cool. And I never, even watching The Apprentice, I never forgot, because I am the exact same age as those young men were at the time, and that, obviously we've aged together. So the president of the United States, 30 years before he was the president, called on the execution of teenagers before getting the full story, and those teenagers were exonerated, and he never offered an apology. I never forgot that, and I don't think our team would either. Ain't no ass stepping with Marcus J. Live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. I think I've gotten all of that out of my system, and hopefully you all have as well. It's time for us to move on to the final stage of the show. We call this our rants. We call this our closings. John and Steph and I give our final word on whatever it is in our spirit. John usually leads us off. Tonight will be no different. John, you have the con, my friend. What you got to say?
First and foremost, as always, Marcus, thank you for this platform. This is your baby. This is Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J. And I appreciate you accepting me and my views and opinions. Other than the fact that I love you, and other than the fact that you're my brother, and other than the fact that we cool like the other side of the pillow, just strictly on this level, I appreciate you and thank you. And Steph, again, thank you so much for everything that you contribute to the show that I take away from the show and use to make my life better. Thank you.
Anytime.
Right. Now, for my closing, I've spoken on this show ad nauseum about understanding where we live, understanding this republic that we're in. It's a republic. It's not a democracy. It's not a country. It's a corporation. Knowing where you live and knowing what you are and who you are is very important. Knowledge of self. With knowledge of self is nothing I can't solve. Right? Great man once said that. Right? You gotta know what you're dealing with. You gotta stop turning a blind eye to reality. And I'm speaking to everybody. Right? This is what we're doing in this country. We are clickbaiting. We are creating a metaverse through social media That is not a reality. And then when we are faced with reality, we are dramatizing it in such a way that it is not good. Frank called in earlier. Big up to Frank. He spoke about COVID. He's suffering with COVID. And we lost K. Slay to COVID. COVID is one of the best examples of a dramatized situation that people are not even considering anything other than the jargon and bullshit that they get on social media and through the basic news cycles. Right? Why are people arguing about masks? Right? Those masks you buy at the store for $1, those paper masks, they are 99% ineffective rather. But we argue about wearing them. But nobody is say, if you really want to do it, stay 7 feet apart. Virus won't travel that far. Mask or no mask. 7 feet apart. If you're 7 feet apart, you're not going to catch it. But you can wear a mask that's 99% ineffective and sit next to somebody on an airplane. You know why? Because the airplane is making money. You ain't going to stop the money. Right? So it can be convenient for you to live if it's making money. But if it ain't making any money, we're going to make life as inconvenient for you as possible. Right? You got to wear a mask and to go into the restaurant, but when you sit down across the table, for the people who's at the other table next to you, they not with you. There's some other people next to you. Y'all get to take your mask off. But if you outside in the street, you got your mask on. Nobody next to you. But you'll take it off sitting in a restaurant next to somebody you don't know. And this mask is supposed to be effective. Again, that's the mind fuck that we're dealing with in this kind of situation. The newest variant is less harmful than the flu, right? And somebody was telling me about COVID, and they would say, I'll be, happy when it's done. It's never gonna be done. It's here forever. It's at its root, it's the common cold, it's the rhinovirus. At its root, it's not going anywhere. We're gonna have, COVID shots every year, like we got flu shots, and we're gonna do all this other kind of stuff. It's not going anywhere. All we could do is continue to minimize people who suffer fatalities after catching the virus and having their already depleted immune system affected. Do y'all? Right? That weight, being overweight, is one of the most determining factors in whether or not you're going to die, aside from having pre-existing respiratory issues and being of a certain age. Age you can't help. You're going to get old, but you cannot be fat. Being fat will make COVID kill you 80% of the time. But they're not telling people don't be fat. They're telling people to wear a mask. That doesn't work. And get shots and get vaccines and boosters and stuff. And commendment to Frank for getting the shot and the boosters. But they also know that that's ineffective. It wasn't designed to stop you from getting it. It was designed to stop you from dying. Right? But they didn't tell you that. They didn't sell it that way. They sold it as a vaccine. It's not a vaccine. It's a treatment. A vaccine is preventative. A vaccine kills the virus. A treatment minimizes its effects. It was a treatment. That's what it was. It was the flu shot, which is not a flu vaccine. It's a treatment. Right? I'm sorry. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And we can look up any CDC paperwork and World Health Organization. All of them say it. They say it. It's not hard to find. The most effective way not to get the vaccine is to stay 7 feet away from people. But they don't tell people to do that. They tell people to do that, but then they give them the mask as if it's supposed to work and let people be next to each other and talk about they're trying to stop the spread. They don't give a damn about the spread of the vaccine. They don't give a damn about nobody dying. The bottom line is always the bottom line. Right? Because this whole thing could have been dealt with so much better and so much more effectively. And again, nobody is ever speaking on the amount of people who died with COVID as opposed to the amount of people who died because of COVID. They've lumped them into one category, and no place on the planet will you find any separation. And nobody seems to find an issue with that. But it's a serious issue. Because again, they're selling a product. Like we were talking about politics. They're selling this shit. And people are dying. And they're selling it. So these are my issues. I got a vaccine. I got a vaccine card in my wallet. So it ain't like I'm anti-vaccine or anti-mask or anything. I'm just not for the bullshit. Right? Don't try to sell me anything. Just speak about it in plain, simple English and let people do what they do. Again, mandating vaccines on a federal level cause states to react the same way. They could do the same shit with policing like they did with COVID. They could do it, but they choose not to because, again, the bottom line is the bottom line. We go back again. This country, this corporation was founded. The idea of it was stolen, right? Even Jefferson and all of those other architects will admit it if you go through their own memoirs that they stole it from the Iroquois nation. The idea of the separate branches and the states and representatives and all of that is stolen. It's not an original idea, right? This is how white people do. They find something that somebody else has and they find a way to steal it and put their name on it because you don't have a piece of paper that we call a patent. Oh, so I'll take this and I'll put a patent on it. Therefore, it's mine. Really? Yeah, really. And then we'll write history that way. James Baldwin says something about that, about when you get to write the history, no matter what it is, the lie becomes the truth. Like a Game of Thrones, it's like the 1,000 swords that made the throne. We tell ourselves these lies over and over again so long that we forget it's a lie. Right? So we forget about all the lies. We forget about the guy who bought the trade centers taking out new insurance policies well over the value of the buildings before the week before the attack. And building 7 was included and suffered no damage, but still was demolished. We forget all of these things conveniently, right? Just like we will forget at some point George Floyd, because before George Floyd, there was Eleanor Bumpers. It was the artist in the subway station. It was the Spanish kid playing football with his friends. It was countless. It was Abner Nawima. It was the other guy with the wallet, Diallo. Right? These names get forgotten in general. We remember it here on this show because we lived it. But what happens when we're gone? They're not going to remember it. Marcus made a statement to me about somebody was talking. Somebody said, "Who's the best rapper ever?" Somebody said BDK. And the guy who asked the question was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Well, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if I say the best rappers of all time is BDK, then you don't never got the right to ask me that damn question. You don't. And here's the problem. We will forget. Because I'm telling you, and another thing, we was talking about something a couple of weeks ago. We was talking about pedophilia and bestiality. Somebody want to tell me when it became illegal for bestiality in Kentucky? When did it become a crime? 8 days ago. Up until 8 days ago, it was not a crime to have sex with an animal in Kentucky. So I'm saying these things, my whole point to all of this is all of these things are lies of convenience that stretch out over the years. And the next thing you know, it's forgotten fact. It's forgotten. And as long as we keep accepting the bullshit as it rolls out from the major news organizations, from the politicians, and from other people, we will digest these lies. We will accept these lies and they will become the truth. The 9 of the so-called 14 people that ran the planes into the Twin Towers was found alive somewhere in the Middle East. This is fact. You can look it up. But they'll never tell that part of the one passport that survived the fire that destroyed 2 buildings. That the people learned to fly a plane in a simulator with 5 days of training, and they flew it down Broadway straight into a building. People can't even park their damn car. But you're going to learn to fly a big plane like that into a building in 5 days in a simulator. Again, all of these things, these lies become truths. And Martin Luther King being smothered in the hospital. All these things become truths. And also all I'm saying, don't forget, understand what you're dealing with and know where you live and understand what's going on around you. And that is my rant.
Ain't no how stepping with Marcus J live from New Den, Legacy in their radio. Steph, you ready to follow that? Come on, man. You know,
Jesus.
I'll give you each your flowers that you are well deserving when it's my turn, but now it's your turn. You've got the con, and close us out with your final word of the night.
I'm gonna keep it super brief. I'm gonna keep it super brief. Like literally, I'm gonna be concise. I watched Yeezus the other day, or Genius, and while I was watching it, the thing that I noticed most significantly was the impact of being loved and what that does to an individual. The impact of someone confidently, wholeheartedly believing in you and pushing your narrative, even when they have to side eye you and be like, all right. And Donda West was that. As I was watching her and looking at what she was doing to nurture her son's ambition. I mean, remembering his rhymes from middle school talent shows, taking him around to all these different places when he was younger, being his hype woman on their home videos. The significance of it can't be overlooked. It can't be overlooked because there are some people in your life right now that need that level of cosign. They need that level of encouragement. They need that level of support. And there are some of you out there who need those people in your life. And instead of what you should be doing, which is, by the way, as much as everything they showed of her was her encouraging him, encouragement also looks like critique, chastisement, and sometimes commitment to telling you the truth as people see it. And so, because up until a certain point, and we could say it has something to do with his illness, up until a certain point, this is someone that is wholly aware that he is not always right. Even when he has to come back and admit that he is not always right. And some of you need people like that in your life right now. Someone who will tell you you're not always right. You can speak loud, you can speak loud and wrong at both the same time. Both of those things can be done concurrently. So find the people that will tell you how awesome you are, but also love you enough to tell you when you're running off the rails. A lot of what we deal with on a regular basis communally is lack of accountability. It is the lack of accountability for what you think you know and what you know. It is the lack of accountability for the mistakes that you make or the things that you don't pursue. And running to the people who high five you, even when you're making those mistakes, is not going to push you to that next level. You We need the people in our lives who will redirect us, guide us, comfort us when we make the dumb mistakes, and also bring us back to center. And when they bring us back to center, they're willing to also encourage us, and that's the other side of that. Be the person that is capable of encouraging someone, believing in someone's success, and promoting it without referring to who they used to be. There's a significant thing we have that other communities don't. They're willing to forget. You think about Robert Downey Jr. We mentioned him earlier. Someone mentioned him earlier. I think it was Sean. And he has had many times to make mistakes. I remember being a kid and this guy was already an addict. Part of the new Hollywood brat pack at that point.
Less than zero.
Seriously. And he was given the allowance of reinventing himself, making the mistake multiple times, coming back and apologizing multiple times. People were forgiving him, as the Christ-like say, 70 times 7, and allowing him to move forward. And you have somebody in your community right now that's trying to make a simple transition. Maybe they're running a business. Maybe they're out there speaking about their lives. Maybe they are trying to go to school. Whatever it is they're trying to do, and someone in the community is getting off on the remember when moment. Never helps us. We're never being fully forgiving of the past or how people change. We can be the toughest people on one another. I mean, everything that we heard tonight is clarity that no matter your socioeconomic level in this United States, in these United States of America, there is a systemic struggle that's going to be presented to certain people. And you only endorse, support, promote, and create a solid foundation for that systemic struggle that's been implemented by overlooking the potential greatness right within your spaces, right within your community. So I encourage you to take an internal look at yourself right now or later and ask yourself, are you the real hater? Are you the real hater? You don't even really care what that person is doing. So you don't hate their mission. You just care that you're not doing it. And you want to knock them off their game. Be honest with yourself. Hold yourself accountable. Make it okay to say, you know what? I feel jealous. Jealousy is a natural emotion. Nobody controls feelings. You control behaviors. Feelings come upon you. It's just a natural thing. So it is natural that from time to time, you'll feel a moment of jealousy. Now, do you allow it to take root and become the weed that chokes everything out? Or are you the one that sees it, snatches it up, and lets it blow away like a dandelion? You have to determine that. But know that every moment you are choosing to ignore the potential in others that are sitting right in your community, you are choosing to uphold all of the fundamentals of the system that believes you are less than, that we are less than, that we are incapable. And you get to choose. You get to choose to support that. I mean, what the fellas say? You could get with this, or you could get with that. You can choose to support this greatness that resides within our communities with brothers who have opinions and brothers who are willing to speak and educate you, whether it's financially or through their mission of bringing you radio on a regular basis or running a coffee shop or whatever they're doing. You can choose to make the decision to support that. You can even choose to, while you're supporting that, ignore the other naysayers. Because I promise you, those crows that used to be in the old Warner Brothers cartoons, the Three Crows, and they were even in like Dumbo or whatever, right? The Three Crows that were symbolically racist. They all get together and shooting a dozen, play in the dozens, and crows come together. You know what crows are called when they are in a flock? A murder. Are you a murder? Are you murdering someone's potential, their drive, their desire, their greatness? Are you murdering it because you standing on the corner with a bunch of other people who know how to get to the lowest common denominator with you? You know what a group of bunnies are called? A cuddle. Are you embracing and cuddling the people in your community that have something to offer you? You a bunny or you a crow? I mean, sometimes you got to break it down super 5th grade level. It seems funny, but many of us are out here running with a murder. You're crows. Or Congress of baboons, exactly. So I'm just challenging you really. Be accountable for what you say about your brotherhood, your sisterhood. Be accountable for who you say it to. Some people are only comfortable when they're carrying tails. There's nothing that makes them happier than being the next person that has something to repeat. Are you murdering or cuddling your community? And that's my rant.
Ain't no how Steppin with Marcus J live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. I just want to start off my rant and my closing by offering my thank you and ending salutations to the usual suspects. John, love you, brother. I appreciate you. I give you the similar flowers each week. It's just, your unapologetic way of making your points is something that many of us would love to emulate and often are unable to. And so stay you. Don't ever change. At this stage of your life, I'm sure that that's not a thing that's going to happen, but evolution is evolution, but the core of who you are is something that I really rock with. So that's what I mean when I say don't change. And and
Same.
Steph, yeah, exactly.
I love you.
And Steph, I appreciate you because you about as no nonsense as it gets, but you have a very good way of making sure that those of us that you love, we know it. And a lot of times when you love somebody, you have a hard time expressing you, but in general, we have a hard time expressing it, and you're expressive about that. And I think there should be more of that in the world. You're good at that, and I appreciate that about you. I love y'all, man. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you. The love is mutual.
What I want to talk about today is 3 things, and many people close to me know that I'm in the midst of probably some would call a midlife crisis, but it's not really a crisis because a crisis would suggest a negative, and it's not a negative. I'm in a good space, and a lot of the things that went on in the last few years for me have kind of evolved their way out of my life, and so that's something that whether it makes me happy or unhappy is not really where I'm going. Where I'm going is the peace that comes with it. And so there are 3 things that I have learned to embrace that I would like to share, and hopefully you all will get something out of it. And the first thing is be blessed. Be blessed. When you use the phrase blessed, often there is a religious connotation that comes with that. And I don't look at it that way. I look at it as basically showing yourself some love. You know what I mean? And often we give so much attention to others and other people, and which is rightly so, we should, but we are also as individuals blessed people in the sense of we should take care to be kind to ourselves. We should be blessed within ourselves. And while it's important to take care of other people, we cannot forget that self-preservation is the first law of the land. Often we do that. We go to work every day and we spend all day there, and then we come home and we'll take care of our our families, our children, or maybe we'll go to another job, or maybe we do this, or we do that. And we often don't find the time to be blessed within ourselves. And I think that's important. I think that's missing. And when I began to start doing that, living that way, I started to feel a lot more comfortable with this stage of life. Maybe it is, in fact, a midlife crisis. But if this is what midlife crisis feels like, then I'm all for it. I did the midlife crisis buy a car thing. Did that twice, and this just feels different. The other thing that I want to talk about is giving grace. We will give grace to everybody except for ourselves. We again we take care of other folks, and again, I don't want to make this seem like I'm telling you not to take care of people. That's not what this conversation and this rant is about. What this is about is for those people, and we know who they are. Those people who give and 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 give, but do not have any of those gives to themselves. And sometimes you need to learn to forgive yourself for your transgressions. Give yourself grace, because none of us are perfect. We strive for it, but striving by definition means that we're reaching, we're trying. Give yourself grace, especially when you know you're trying hard. Like, I've come to a point in my life where I know I'm a good person. And they say that you're not supposed to openly say these things. Oh, you conceited, oh, you're arrogant, all these kinds of things. I think that people who know me know my heart. And I know that my creator knows my heart. And so with that, I can give myself some grace. When I fall down, I give myself grace to get up and try again. And I'm learning this. I'm learning these lessons. A big part of me going to yoga is when we're in a quiet moment, when it's just us, and the instructor is giving affirmations and teaching us the things that I just shared with you. Be blessed. Give grace. We will often bestow blessings on other folks while we don't give ourselves the same blessings. We'll often give others the grace while not giving ourselves that same grace. It's okay to give your last to someone if that's what you feel that you want to do, but you should always remember, while you want to love the world, you part of the world too. And so be one with yourself. Take care of yourself. Now, again, I ain't talking to the selfish people. Selfish people going to do what they're going to do. I'm not talking to them. I'm not talking to them. And please don't think that I am. I'm talking to those people, and we all know them. You may be one of them, where you're the anchor of all your relationships. Everybody calls you, what am I going to do? Everybody calls you, this is happening to me. Everybody calls you, who you going to call? Don't say Ghostbusters. Don't do that. But really, who you going to call? Because while your phone is ringing and you get to dialing, who's going to pick up the phone to offer you grace? Who's going to pick up the phone to bestow a blessing upon you? I'm speaking to those alphas in the friendships, the ones that when there's a phone conversation, you got to lead the conversation or else it's going to be dead air. I'm talking to those people. You know who you are. And lastly, the most important thing, always keep it 100. Always keep it 100, because we are often keep it 100 with other people. We can see very clearly what other people should be doing, but what you gonna do? How you gonna keep it 100 with yourself? How are you gonna see yourself and work on your own toxic traits It ain't always the other person. No matter how you feel about your situation, we can talk about 50-50 relationships, but 50-50 means 50-50. So while you are upset with them, when you pointing the finger, there's more fingers pointing back at you. So remember that. Be blessed. Give grace. Always keep it 100. You do those things, I promise you, you will find your way moving through this life in a more peaceful manner, because you won't have the burden in your spirit of keeping things inside that should be on the outside. How you going to be inside yourself when you're being blessed? When you bless, people see it. It's palpable. You can touch that. You can touch a person that's blessed. You can feel that. You can see it in their eyes. You can hear it in their prose. You can see it how they walk. When you're giving grace to somebody, they can feel the love coming off of you. That somebody often is not you. Maybe it should be. Keep it 100 with yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, because sometimes you toxic as hell. I said those things. That's my recap. Feel like I'm rambling. Now it's time to end. That is the Marcus's unrelated rant. It ain't got nothing to do with what we in here talking about tonight. It's the end of the show. Remind everybody that independence is the key to building your legacy. I also want to say peace to all of the stars and all of the squares. The abundance of water. The fool is thirsty. Those are the words of Bob Marley, who you hear singing in the background because I had to rerun it because I talked longer than 6 minutes. We're celebrating 10 years in here. Authenticity has no competition. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're excited. We're happy to continue bringing you this show, going on 11 years. And next week, we're going to do it again. For John, for Steph, I am Marcus J. We will see y'all next week, y'all. Peace.
Oh yeah, I'm with this, with it. I'm just gonna lay back and I'ma drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. We about to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready, let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the B, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk, running back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Steppin' is the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the B, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.